It's time to pull up a stool and grab your spot at the bar. The stadiums are dark, the scoreboards are off, and the final whistle has long since blown. But in here, the lights stay on. Welcome to the ETB Lounge on the Empty the Bench Network. This is your official post-game nightcap, where we break down the biggest hits, pour one out for the heartbreaks, and dive into the stories that linger long after the clock hits zero. Whether you're here for sharp analysis or one last round of sports talk with the best fans in the game, you've come to the right place. The games are over, and the conversation is just getting started. It's a weekend that should have been all about the glory of the bracket and the roar of 64,000 fans, but has been overshadowed by a headline that makes the sports world go quiet. Hello again, my friends. My name is Callan McClurg, and welcome into the ETB Lounge for this Monday evening, March the 30th, 2026. We begin our program with the sobering news out of Florida over the course of the weekend, where Tiger Woods was once again involved in another rollover crash in Jupiter Island after clipping a trailer. And while authorities say he was able to crawl out of the vehicle, he was subsequently arrested on suspicion of DUI. After everything this man has fought through, the surgeries, the crash in 2021, that not only cost him his leg, the legendary comebacks, this is a devastating blow. Tonight, our thoughts aren't on his golf swing, but on his own well-being and what this means for a legacy that has already endured so much over the last several years. But as the saying goes, the games don't stop. And this weekend, women's sports didn't just come to play, they came to conquer. In the NWSL expansion side, Denver Summit FC made history at Empower Field at Mile High. They didn't just break an attendance record, guys. They shattered it by pulling in 63,004 fans for their home opener versus Washington, a massive statement for the growth of this game. And about power moves, look no further than my hometown, where San Diego Wave FC has flexed their financial muscle by bringing home Catarina Macario back to her hometown on a new record-setting deal through 2030. Cat comes home, and the Wave are officially signaling that they aren't just here to compete, but here to also dominate. On the flip side, baseball opening weekend was a bit of a mixed bag. While the ball was flying, the broadcast booths were stumbling. Netflix stepped into the live sports arena with the Yankees and Giants, and much to say there's a reason buffering shouldn't happen during a 100-mile-an-hour heater being thrown. From missing the first-ever regular season ABS challenge because of a dugout interview to questionable celebrity cuts, the Netflix era for baseball is off to, let's call it, a bit of a rocky start. And in shocking news in the NHL, the coaching carousel took a shocking turn as the Vegas Golden Knights can Bruce Cassidy with only 8 games left for the regular season. And, of course, the Elite Eight has given us a Final Four that is anything but predictable and so much more. Tonight, we look at why Denver is now the new soccer capital of the world and how the Wave brought home Catarina Macario and why Netflix might need to stick to documentaries rather than live sports. The lounge is open on this Monday. At the bar tonight, Nick Morgasen, Tom Albano, and, of course, Dino Taibi. Gentlemen, good evening. Tigers in the headlines for the wrong reasons once again. Denver's at the center of the soccer universe, and I'm pretty sure Netflix just cut to a rom-com trailer during another bases-loaded jam. Mr. Morgasen, great to see you on this Monday. How are we doing, sir?
Alive. Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Yeah, alive. Exhausted, but I'm here. I'm ready to talk Tiger Woods because Tiger Woods kind of thinks he's Oprah and he's handing out DUIs like it's a prize for the audience. Yes, I'm using that again. That's in my show.
Wouldn't he be the audience?
No, but I'm saying, like, he thinks that instead of giving out, like, free golf swag, he's just going to hand out DUIs. You get a DUI, you get a DUI, you get a DUI. Like, I don't know. Well, he probably has enough money to compete with Oprah, but the problem is at least Oprah has somewhat of a clean reputation, unlike Tiger Woods.
Our resident schoolmaster, Tom Albano, enjoying his spring break, joined us here tonight. Mr. Albano, welcome back after being on last night. 2 days in a row, my friend. Great to see you again. It's been a while.
2 days in a row. Yes, I can actually crack open a drink. Don't worry, it's soda. And I can actually enjoy myself. I'm pretty good, Callan. Yeah, I talked for 2 hours with Nick DiMartino, Ben Cruz, and Jack Gold last night. And we brought the comedy to that show, and now we're just going to bring all the sports banter and comedy here. As you said, a lot of interesting stuff going on from the Final Four to John Tortorella, my old friend, back in the head coaching position.
Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
With more importantly, with 8 games left in the regular season. Dino Taibi, our analytical whiz, also joining us. Dino, as always, we appreciate you for joining us, my man. How we doing this evening?
I'm doing all right. The weather's getting warmer, so that's nice. Yeah, and it was quite the weekend to be watching and hearing about sports stars all over the country.
With that in mind, folks, we have 104 people already joining us. Here's a quick reminder, though, folks. Again, as mentioned, you can follow the show and the network on social media. We are at the ETB Lounge across Twitter, IG, and eventually TikTok when they don't ban the network or ban the account for selling liquor and alcohol is what I was told it was all about because of the
Are you serious?
Picture. That's literally what happened. That is literally what happened when the account first went live. You can, of course, follow the network on social media, Twitter, IG, and TikTok, all at ETB Network. And more importantly, like and subscribe over at youtube.com/ETB Network. I feel like I've said that like 1,000 times.
Wait, TikTok, look. Go.
But I feel like but I literally feel like I have said, make sure to like and subscribe at youtube.com/ETB Network, as I've been getting back into the nice little flow and rhythm of recording some small market edition episodes that are coming out. And for those wondering, we have a list already out till New Year's Day of where we're at with our planning.
They're not recorded yet. You have a list.
That is where our list is at right now. So we're already getting way ahead of the curve. But again, go and like us and subscribe to us over at youtube.com/ETB Network. And again, hit that notification bell so you do not miss any of our live or even tape recorded programs either here today. With that, gents, we'll get a head start here for the round of takes. We're going to start, though. We'll talk about Tiger Woods a little bit later in the opening segment, though, folks. We'll get to our round of takes, though. Guys, our biggest win on tap, though, takes us, though, to the world of women's pro soccer this past weekend. On Saturday, 63,004 fans packed Mile High for Denver Summit's home opener, a new NWSL and U.S. Women's Pro Soccer record, as the Denver Summit tied the Washington Spirit 0-0 in the first home game for the newly formed Denver Summit FC. On the flip side, though, San Diego Wave FC, as Nick and I have talked about for the last couple of shows, finally announced the signing of Catarina Macario through 2030, utilizing the brand new added NWSL's high impact player rule, or HIP rule. Catarina Macario qualifies as a top 11 U.S. Women's National Team minute getter, allowing the Wave to bypass the salary cap for a historic contract, paying her about $8 million over the next 4 seasons and higher than the contract that was given to Trinity Rodman just before this new season began. So, Nick Morgasen, does Denver drawing 63,000 soccer fans and the Wave dropping record cash on Catarina Macario finally prove that the NWSL, with now adding 2 new teams this year, are they finally, Nick, a big money league that can rival the investment of the world's top men's clubs? Or is there still, though, plenty of room, though, for them to grow in this ecospace?
Just because you spend $8 million on a contract doesn't mean that you're fully up to par when it comes to whether you're a money-making league. Go ask the WNBA for 160-plus days how that worked out when it came to revenue and whether these women should be made. And we finally saw a WNBA lockout, or not lockout, but a stalemate finally come to an end because the owners finally realized that the players bring some value to the WNBA. Soccer, the NWSL, excuse me, has a lot longer trail they have to come along the path to. And when that stupid rule that what's the commissioner's name again? Jessica
Berman,
who I think is not exactly the most intelligent person when it comes to being a commissioner, who basically tried to veto, whose deal was it that she tried to veto?
Trinity Rodman the first time around, yes.
So, which made no sense because she was the highest valued player in the NWSL. The owners were willing to pay her. How often do you see that, by the way? An owner is willing to reach into their pocket. Hey, Steinbrenners, you should take a page out of this pocket, and pay your players. But excuse me, that when I look at this, is it a good sign that they're being paid? Sure, it's a good sign. But they have to justify those salaries by making enough revenue to back those salaries. Because I'll tell you right now, $8 million is a lot on the NWSL. For any other sport, you look at the NBA, MLB, NFL, NHL, $8 million is a walk in the park to most of those leagues. Okay? The NWSL, that's a lot of money. That $8 million in the NWSL is like a $30 or $40 million contract in Major League Baseball, is the way I look at it. So you better live up to that, and you better be making enough money to support. I can relate this back to being in the business, in broadcasting. When I was in radio, and I knew this about a guy we talk about all the time, Mike Francesa, when he was on the air here in New York, and I heard this through the grapevine working in the business. He made like $5 million a year in drive time radio at WFAN. I found out that they had to make 5 times his salary to break even for him to be paid that salary. So they had to generate $25 million to justify a $5 million salary.
At that point, it's not worth it.
Well, eventually they gave up. And also that's why he was doing 25 hours of radio every single week, because they needed all that commercial revenue to come in for the show. So same thing. The $8 million salary needs to be justified by ad revenue, by team revenue. Are we selling jerseys now that she's considered the big name of the league? So that's more the question you got to ask. Is the salary justified?
Yeah, I wouldn't say Macario's like face of the league, but as Nick, you have long known about the Waves problems dating back to the last couple of years with the public fallout of the Brittany Alvarado, Jill Ellis, snafu with the lawsuit, and that the damage had been done. I believe the story I'm working on for later this year about the Wave franchise, having been a independent beat writer, the attendance had plummeted by about 30% after the team began to kind of fall apart, though, because of what had gone on with the Jill Ellis issues. Nick, I want to go back to you though real quick. Though we talked about the high impact player rule. How about seeing 63,000 plus people pack Mile High Stadium to watch the Summit play over the course of the weekend for their first ever home game?
Well, the one thing I will say is in Denver, it's not like where the three of us down below live in New York, where you have major sports that dominate the headlines constantly. So the Yankees, I'll forget the Nets, but the Yankees, the Knicks, the Jets, and the Giants, as poorly as our two football teams are, people will go and watch New York football over anything else.
Because football is life here.
Because football is king. But in Denver, even though you have the Broncos and the Broncos are finally playing good football, Denver is a more open area, which is more open to sports that are not your typical sports, like soccer, like lacrosse, like a bunch of other things that people are more willing to explore. So am I surprised? No. By the way, Denver's what is the name of it? Mile High Stadium is huge.
Empower Field, Mile High.
Yeah. Yeah. God. I can get into a whole argument about that, but I'm not going to.
But he's right in that the Nuggets and the Avalanche get a lot of attention there as well.
Right. Yes. And so it's more open. Fans, it's not always me, like the Yankees and the Jets and the Giants are, or the Knicks. Like Denver has more room to grow when it comes to more creativity, when it comes to sports. So am I surprised by the crowd? No, because Denver fans are more open to more than just watching the NFL. The Yankees are, New York, is very attached to their major teams. And that's it. And that's why soccer gets forgotten in New York. That's why a bunch of other sports get forgotten in New York, because all we care about is NFL, MLB, and NBA.
And it doesn't help, by the way, it also doesn't help when you have 2+ teams in the area in each sport of the 4 major sports.
Well, yeah. But that's more a marketing exercise than an ignorance issue. In Denver, they're not sharing with anybody. So there's more ability to say, oh, I can go watch the Broncos during the NFL season, but I can also go watch the NWSL, and I can go watch the NBA, and I can go watch the Avalanche and the NHL. I mean, to be honest, I think the NHL is almost lost here in New York at times.
Well, especially when the Islanders are on the come up with Matthew Schaefer and the Rangers are having one of their worst years on record in the last several seasons.
And no disrespect to hockey, by the way. I've watched a little more hockey over the years, finally. But when I have my Yankees and my Jets, like those are going to come first. Well, unfortunately, my Nets, I'll even watch them when they're terrible. But I'm an NBA guy and an NFL guy at first. So everything else is going to get lost.
And I think you've even said if you had to pick a soccer club back there, it'd be New York City FC.
Well, yeah, I watched a little bit of the run when they won, but they were also playing Yankee Stadium at the time.
Before they moved to East Ed Park in a couple of years, yeah.
But people forgot that they shared stadium space. So then they kind of got lost in the fold because they were playing at Yankee Stadium. So I'm happy for Denver. I'm happy they got 63,000 fans. It means that there is a market and that they're screaming and yelling for soccer because there's obviously enough of a crowd that will enjoy it and watch it.
Tom, let's start, though, with the attendance here again. 63,004 was the official mark at Empower Field on Saturday. The Summit played to a 0-0 tie versus the Rodman squad of the Washington Spirit. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about, the NWSL expanding. They finally did that this year with Denver and Boston getting clubs. Believe that the Boston Legacy, I believe that they also set their own attendance record of, I think, 45 or 50,000 at Gillette Stadium. They're going to be playing that whole year at Gillette before they move to a new stadium somewhere in Boston. Denver has plans to build their own women's soccer stadium somewhere in Centennial, which is the capital city. So, Tom, let's start there, though, because obviously I've watched more NWSL the last 5 years since the team came to San Diego. They were going to be in Sacramento. And, obviously the wave came out of the gate with Alex Morgan and Abby Dahl-Kemper. They played at my university for the first half of their year, moved to Snapdragon Stadium. They had 35,000 people their first game. That set the original, literal benchmark of attendance. So that's been obviously, pressed and, it's been moved up and up and up on the scales, though. Tom, especially, though, for a sport like women's soccer, still growing, finding their groove here. Now, though, first year of expansion, though, where they add 2 new teams. They have an equal number of teams coming up here with Denver and Boston. Tom, at least from your perspective, what does that number maybe mean, though, for at least the first game for Denver soccer fans? Because I think you might know that Nick and I talked to David Sampson, months ago about, you go for the first year to see, the shine. But then, year 2, year 3, though. But at least, though, Tom, out of the gate, thoughts about Denver drawing 63,000 people before I ask you about Katerina Marcario's contract.
Highly successful. Well, say it's highly successful, but it goes beyond just talking about Denver. I mean, yes, obviously, first season in the league, to pull that kind of number is insane. And you're going to need talents like her in order to continue to get fans into the seats. And it's funny because usually, you talk about the shine, but then usually there tends to be a bit of a fall with some of these expansion teams because when you get players from the expansion draft, it's usually a struggle. It's usually a building process at the very first point of the season. It's very rare to see success like the Miami Marlins, 5th season in the league, win the World Series.
Arizona Diamondbacks,
4th season in the league, win the
Vegas
World
Golden
Series.
Knights.
First season in the league, make it to the finals. 5th season in the league, win a cup. It's very rare for that to kind of happen. But for 60,000 plus people to be in that stadium, that says that there's viability to that team and that there is a growing, passionate fan base right there in Denver. And I think it's more than just Denver because, honestly, that kind of number being pulled for the NWSL, that's just showing that we had, that's a major success for a major women's sports league. That's a major success, and that just shows the power that the NWSL has. That shows the viability of that league. That shows just how much they're expanding, they're growing. And you know what? Good on them, because it seems like they are about the players, they are about the fans. And when you really think about it, it's funny that we're talking about this, but meanwhile, the WNBA just managed by the hair of their chinny chin chin to avoid epic disaster with potential lockout talks. And for that, the advantage is in the NWSL's favor because you get to learn from the likes of Kathy Engelbert what not to do with a league like that.
I mean, he's borderline not wrong, with that whole thing though. And then I guess Tom, I'll go back to you for one more play here. Again, obviously, this new rule though. Again, the high impact player rule is they won't come out and say it, but I'll say it. It's essentially what MLS did when David Beckham came over nearly 20 years ago to play for the LA Galaxy. Again, Catarina Marcario's contract or salary does not count against the salary cap for San Diego. Same with Trinity Rodman's salary in Washington. Tom, even then, though, an $8 million contract, I think, though, Nick was onto a good point, though, that this is in a way like a massive shot in the arm, though, for the NWSL. Obviously, it's, chump change to like Shohei Ohtani or Juan Soto, for example, or Manny Machado. Mm-hmm. But even then, though, Tom, what does that rule, though, probably in your mind, though, tell you, though, about where, at least right now, that women's soccer is kind of going after, all the years of trying to, maybe, keep their top talent here in the States and not have them go overseas?
Well, I mean, first of all, if we're talking about the NWSL and that rule, comparing it, I would also throw the comparison out there to the NBA and how all the it's a soft cap, or the MLB, and we're just continuing to extend the threshold because we want to keep our players here. And I mean, credit to the NWSL to have an $8 million player like that in your very first season. Fantastic. Shows that these owners, like Nick said, are willing to spend the money. Shows that the league is willing to get money for this league. And, talking about trying to not have them go overseas, I mean, that's just a soccer problem with America, period, men's or women's, because soccer's popularity here in the United States, regardless of men's or women's, pales in comparison to what you see with footy in Europe,
Big
to
time.
what you see just across on the Eastern Hemisphere of the world. So obviously there have been these efforts to make soccer grow. There have been these efforts stretching back to with the U.S. hosting the '94 World Cup. In exchange, what did we have to do? The birth of the MLS. And you know what? Yeah, the MLS. You compare the play in the MLS to the play in the Premier League. Obviously, there's going to be a major difference in terms of talent. But the MLS is still a viable product that we in America want to succeed as a soccer organization, and the same should go with the NWSL, especially given that some of the best soccer players in the world in the United States are the women. It's been the women's teams nationally here in the United States that have been constant successes over the last decade plus. I mean, the men's have their own successes in their own right, and obviously the United States is going to be one of the hosts of this year's World Cup. But obviously, when you're talking about soccer and you're talking about the popularity of it here in America, what are the people going to point to? The women. They're going to point to the women's team. And you know what? If there's all this popularity and love for the women's team, bring that love over to the NWSL, to their legitimate clubs, and watch them compete there and have that league succeed. So that way the league continues to make money. The players continue to make money. They get strong TV deals, and you get more eyes on the product.
You're asking for logic.
Yeah,
I know.
I mean, we might be asking for logic, but I mean, I think though Tom's onto a very fair point though about it's an old saying I used to have though about bring that same energy to the table when it comes to certain things. Like hey, don't let your foot off the gas, though. Keep that same energy. But, Dino, I know I'm throwing a lot at you here, though, my man, but a lot to digest, though, with women's soccer over the course of the weekend. Obviously, Denver Summit FC, first home game, 63,000-plus people packing in Power Field at Mile High for their first-ever home game. And obviously, San Diego Wave FC, again, via the new high-impact player rule, bring home Catarina Marcario from Chelsea of the women's side on a lucrative $8 million contract through 2030. So, Dino, thoughts about maybe the state of the NWSL after the opening weekend with both attendance records being shattered and also players' salaries jumping through the roof, though, for star players?
It's a good sign for soccer in the United States. It looks, 63,000 for a women's soccer game. That's not a number I thought I'd see. So that shows that there's definitely a hunger for more soccer, more in other parts of the country. I think I think Nick did make a good point though, that Denver is definitely probably the type of city that that is more open to these other types of sports. Not that soccer is an other type of sport when it's literally the most popular sport in the entire world, but here in the U.S., it's never really been a top followed sport unless it's the World Cup. Nobody really cares the rest of the year or the rest of the other 3 years when there's no World Cup. But it's good to see that it's finally gaining some traction. And and as for the contract, it's obviously, you say 8 million and you think of baseball and basketball and football contracts, and the 8 million doesn't seem like a lot, but when you consider that we've never seen a number like that in women's soccer, then that's obviously, they just have to be able to continue obviously, I think what I really want to see is whether that attendance will hold up, or if it was just like a first weekend thing. I'm not expecting them to do 63,000 every weekend, but of course, it's interesting to see what the drop-off will be, if it'll be like a severe drop-off or just a minor drop-off, and whether they can sustain that kind of attendance in the long term.
I mean, could you compare this partially to Unrivaled when it first originally opened in season 1, where everybody who's anybody showed up to watch Unrivaled because of the whole fight that was going on with the WNBA and the WNBPA?
Fair.
Which Callan and I talked about on Press Row, that everyone needed an incentive to play somewhere else. And then everyone felt bad for the WNBA players, so they all went and they watched Unrivaled. But it's like Sampson told us in the interview, that year 2 is the more important year of a growing business than year 1, because year 1 is novelty compared to what happens in year 2, year 3, and year 4 to see if you have a profitable business to move forward. Same thing
at that point, it's not a matter of putting butts in seats, a matter of keeping butts in seats.
Yes.
Well,
Sustaining
the repeating customer, as they say, are they going to return 2, 3, 4 times to watch another game? Or as they call that, ROI, return on investment, if people are going to return and watch games. So it all depends on, like Dino said, and everyone has been saying, 63,000 fans showed up. I think that was more public interest than it was if they know whether they're a fan of the team or not in that scenario. So they have to turn public interest into real consistent fandom,
right,
where people are going to show up to watch.
I mean, it could also be a case where, the fact they were an expansion team, they were just in the news a lot in Denver, in the local news, and people had a genuine interest in seeing this new team play. So it's really a matter of maintaining that audience now. Did they do enough to draw them back? A lot of times this actually reminds me of also, like, for example, when a big movie opens and they do the huge opening weekend, the ones that really end up making a lot are the ones that sustain that through the second and third and fourth weekends.
Fair comparison.
So that's really, I mean, it's not an apples for apples comparison, because obviously once you see a movie once, you're not gonna,
Yeah, you already know the
different
ending,
every week,
essentially. Exactly.
But it's just an example of, they need to be able to get people to continue. Obviously word of mouth is big with movies. Soccer is a little different, but it's something that they need to be able to draw these fans back and have people say, hey, you should go check out, that new soccer team in Denver.
And I think, within a year 1, and I've been telling Morgasen that I'm kind of, comparing, year one SDFC, year two SDFC right now because of us getting a, MLS here finally after, wanting it for nearly for 30 years. We had long been on the radar, but again, well, you can't play at Qualcomm. It's too damn big for MLS. And, there was talk of Chivas USA coming here. They went to LA to share what was then Home Depot Center with the LA Galaxy. We had the All-Star game here in 99. They had like 30,000 people. We've had so many, minor league clubs and independent clubs start up and then stop and fold operation and whatnot. Well, and by the way, we actually have a benchmarks episode about small market edition episode, I should say, coming out that literally just got done last night, where I'm going to take you back to the original WUSA, the first league that began after the 99 World Cup, though, and talk about the original 8 teams and how those markets in a way went away or they survived, though. But I think, though, that we're all on the same page here again. I don't think, though, that we can't sneeze, though, but 63,000 people came to an NFL scene to watch women's pro soccer, though, which is, unheard of and uncharted territory, if you ask me. And obviously, I did go watch the Wave play last Wednesday. Weeknight games are a difficult draw, though, for any team out there. I think they may have had 8,000 or 10,000 for that Wednesday. They had like 12,000 or 20,000 on Saturday when they brought Kat out for her, like appearance. She didn't play in the game. She's got a bit of a bad ankle right now, but that's par for the course, though. But either way, great weekend to start off, though, for women's soccer with both Denver Summit drawing 63,000 plus people. And again, Katarina Marcario back home in San Diego for Wave FC. Guys, from all things biggest win on tap to flat beer awards to Netflix and their first live MLB game, which was a technical disaster. Fans had blasted the cluttered score bug in the bottom right corner, and too much of heavy cross promotion and it being a 4-hour-long infomercial, with the biggest fail occurring when the broadcast stayed on a in-game interview while and also missed the first ever ABS challenge in Major League Baseball history. Mr. Albano, if streaming giants continue like Netflix, if they're going to be taking over sports, is the trade-off for cinematic quality worth the loss of basic, competent in-game coverage of the actual game itself?
I mean, it's difficult because it feels like any sort of debate about streaming platforms and sports is going to go by the wayside, because you know what? And then Nick DiMartino, Ben, Jack, and I talked about this last night's edition of the ETB Lounge, where, unfortunately, I know there are a lot of people who don't like the fact that we're going to all these different streaming platforms and how we have some technical bugs like you saw with the Netflix broadcast, but that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
What about Paul Tyson?
All the money, right? All the money that is being spent by these streaming platforms to go on and get sports content. I mean, Amazon Prime, exclusive for Thursday Night Football. Prime or Peacock, depending. Did they get a playoff game?
Prime.
Netflix having the MLB opening night. Netflix having Christmas for the NFL. And now potentially might get a Thanksgiving Eve NFL game.
Ugh.
The NBA's new deal with Amazon Prime. Like, it doesn't matter. The broadcast, does it matter to us who are the fans and watch the product and take in, or are media critics? Yes. But for them, it doesn't matter, because it's about, for the leagues, reaching the largest amount of people possible. And for the streaming platforms, it's almost similar, and getting new audiences. I mean, in fact, Nick DiMartino, Ben, and I were talking last night about, it's more common now for households to have Netflix than to have cable. So, is it worth it for these streamers and for these streaming services? Yeah. For these leagues, yeah. Maybe not so much for us, but we don't matter compared to the almighty dollar.
Well, the streamers are getting paid, or paying the leagues up front. That's why they're doing the deals. But at the same time, I just thought Nick D's argument was poor last night, saying that every household in America should have Netflix every household in America should have a streaming platform, and that's why streaming is going to work. That is probably the worst argument I've ever heard in my life.
I don't think he was saying should. I think he's saying realistically, the amount of households, it's becoming more and more common thanks to the rise of cord cutting.
Yeah, but him and I have argued for months where he says, well, if you don't have Netflix, then you look like you're out of touch or whatever. What if someone can't afford streaming? What if someone can't afford, because of the amount of streaming platforms you need? I mean, not that I really want to bring it up, but the NFL, how many streaming platforms do you need? I think you need 8 or 9 now to watch the NFL if you want to watch every single game for the entire season.
Prime, Peacock,
NFL Red Zone if you're going to watch that. I mean, and now they're doing a YouTube 4-game series. They're working on that. Netflix is going to get its own 4-game series. It's too much. Whatever happened to the days when we were all younger and all we had to do was watch, well, in New York, 2, 4, 5, and 7. Okay?
That's years ago, Nick. That was years ago. It's not
get
like
it.
that anymore.
Right, but
7 years ago.
I get it. But at the same time, tell that to the average old person who wants to watch football. Okay?
Well, here's the thing, and I also said this last night too. The one thing you do have to give credit to for the NFL, they have not abandoned those local channels and those local affiliates.
Because legally they can't.
Right, but they have made it so that way, obviously there's no AFC, NFC package anymore. It's just free agency with the games, but
right.
But still, the old, what we would call AFC and NFC packages, they have kept.
AFC would be on CBS,
NFC
would be on Fox.
Right. They have kept on the CBS network, on the main Fox network. You've got Monday Night Football on ABC and ESPN. You've got Sunday Night Football on NBC. Now, could I see one day where Sunday Night Football is exclusively a Peacock broadcast? Maybe.
It could. It could.
But the NFL, and this is what I even said, talk about with the Super Bowl argument, could it go to streaming? I don't know, because the NFL loves to tout about its numbers and its availability. How are you going to make it so that way it's the most available? You have it on the local channels, and you have the deals with the streaming services, so that way you get maximum reach.
They will lose advertising revenue up the wazoo if they go behind a paywall for
correct.
The Super Bowl.
But what happens every Super Bowl? Most watched cable program of the year, second most watched cable program.
That's my point.
Cable watched program of the year.
Well, the reason why the NFL is on primetime on the major broadcast networks is because they are the most watched programs in America. The broadcast channels are not going to get more ratings with anything else other than the NFL. So
But that's why they're trying to balance it, because look what they say when negotiating with Netflix or YouTube. They're talking about packages of games. They're not talking. You're not going to get every single game. You're not going to get the entire AFC for week 1. You're not going to get the entire NFC for week 7. You can get the Sunday ticket through YouTube TV, but for the majority of the NFL games during the season, when you're talking Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, late afternoon, those games are going to be on local stations.
Well, and that's the point. And the thing is, just to get back, because we were talking about baseball, I completely refused as a Yankee fan to go to Netflix and watch the Yankee game because, one, I can't turn the TV when there's a commercial during the game. So that deters me as a fan right there, that if I have to go on a streaming platform, NFL might be a different story because they do a much better job of holding your attention. Major League Baseball doesn't do enough to hold your attention.
And I will say, as somebody who watches WWE Monday Night Raw weekly, and they were there at the game as well, part of the Netflix infomercial. The commercials with Netflix. The commercials with Netflix do get very, very repetitive and very, very old quickly. I mean, watching the UFC on ESPN Plus, gentlemen, on a weekly basis, covering them, was a godforsaken nightmare because you would get the same ads every single time. It was a test of endurance.
Well,
And-
you probably
and
just memorized it at one point.
I
Disney
was-
loves to
and I was in
cross
that
sell.
boat,
So.
and I was kind of in that way. Just to kind of interject real quick here. So Saturday I was working Major League Rugby in Irvine, and I went to downtown Disney to grab dinner with a friend of mine before I came home on Saturday night, and I put the Padre game on the Odyssey radio app on my phone to listen to them play the Tigers. And I'm walking from the Grand Californian Hotel about a mile toward the Anaheim Garden Walk to a local pizza restaurant. Literally, the commercials were the same thing about, call 899 for help or 988 for the suicide line. And I think Nick can interject about that sort of thing.
Well, so streaming ads legally have to be different from radio feed ads. It has something to do with the legal terminology or what they're allowed to air
Yeah,
on screen.
I've noticed that listening to
Yeah,
local
because it was the
radio
same.
here
Like,
in New
okay,
York
I
versus
can
the
recite this in my
iHeart
head like every 3 blocks now.
But just to get back to, because we were talking about opening day, there's so many things that bothered me, and Callan heard me go off on a fire rant during press row. The stupid disembodied hand on a skateboard being rolled out for the first pitch, which nobody saw, by the way, which was supposed to be on the Netflix broadcast.
We had that. We had Bert Kreischer, I think, wearing a life jacket and being on a kayak out in McCovey Cove. We had the missed ABS challenge because of the fact that they had to do some in-game interview.
You had Jameis freaking Winston on this freaking broadcast, which had nothing to do with baseball.
I will say, I was really hoping that Jameis Winston was gonna do a yeet next to Jey Uso.
And of course, I forgot who it was. Was it L. Duncan
L.
who
Duncan made the joke about the crab leg incident from Florida State.
I mean, that joke is so old that I'm like, really? Like, how many times are we going to ask Jameis Winston about crab legs? It's like asking Johnny Manziel if he ran from the police. Okay, I mean, I don't get it. Bert Kreischer was a complete ridiculous nonsense. Was not needed during the broadcast because Netflix doesn't want to run a sporting event. They want to run a Netflix promotion at a sporting event.
Which in a way goes to the crossover with Jameis Winston. NFL's on Netflix. The Uso brothers who are from the Bay Area. WWE is on Netflix for Monday Night Raw, so on and so forth.
Did we forget that it was a baseball game that we were watching on Netflix?
And on top of that, you had the people bashing the score bug. You had the green screen ads that were not synced up to the backstop on certain things.
You weren't back from commercial break on time.
Weren't back from commercial break on time. And this was just me reading off things from Awful Announcing's article because I was at a soccer match that night here in town. So I mean, hopefully it's game one jitters. But if that's the case, though,
I'm going to try to be hopeful and say game one jitters, just because it seems like with Netflix they always screw up the first time around with things. Like the Monday Night Raw broadcast, the first one I remember being pretty good. That might have been an exception, but Paul Tyson is pretty infamous.
For me, Paul Tyson's going to be hanging over Netflix's head for as long as I'm.
All the audio issues they had on the broadcast. I mean,
it kept freezing. It was buffering. You name it.
And then all the random celebrities they had at the Tyson Paul fight, which made no sense either.
Well, that's just boxing. That's just boxing too.
I get it, but I guarantee you, those people got paid millions of dollars to sit at that desk. I bet.
Well. Now, if we're talking about first show jitters, and we're talking about Netflix slowly making its way into live sports, Paul Tyson, WWE Raw, the NFL, and now MLB. I mean, all its eyes are then going to be on that May 16th, MVP MMA promotion, the first MVP MMA card with Rousey and Carano headlining.
And the amount of money that is put into that thing, they better not screw it up. I mean, I don't know. Is it going to be an interesting card? Sure. There's a bunch of big names on it. But if we go into the live broadcast and all of a sudden we can't hear anybody at the desk, everyone's going to be like, they screwed it up again. But everything was a promotion for something else during MLB opening day.
Well, again, I say one, that's Netflix, like it or not, and number two, like it or not, unfortunately, this is the direction that sports and entertainment are going. They're going to the streaming services.
And I've kind of in a way like put up the white flag because the Anaheim Ducks moved to Victory Plus off of Bally Sports because of the whole RSN collapse, and Victory Plus is free in my market because I'm within the confines of the Orange County and LA TV demographic. So we get all the games for free. I can watch them on TV, on my phone, my computer, if I'm in the office here or whatnot. But I mean,
I don't, I have a lot of these, streaming platforms.
So do I.
A lot of them I don't really mind it so much. The one I'm bracing for impact for is that I'm about a month or so away, guys, from moving into an apartment not too far from here. And as part of that, I'm going to be a cord cutter, but for me to get the Yankees, that means I'm going to have to swallow a tough pill.
Gotham.
And I have to get the Gotham app. And the price tag with that, I am not looking forward to that.
Wait, are you getting YouTube TV?
No, I don't have YouTube TV.
No, I said, are you going to get YouTube TV?
I don't think so. I think I'm just going to stick to the streaming services.
Okay. Interesting. YouTube TV's been a little frustrating for me just because I can't watch YouTube.
But that's the other thing. Like, YouTube TV would be tempting for me, but you know what? Every 6 to 9 to 12 months, what do we hear about? YouTube TV is in a dispute with these guys, and then these guys, and then these
and it's
guys.
always before football season begins, 9 times out of 10.
College football and NFL, yep.
I mean, do you remember, like, we were waiting up until on College game day to see if they were actually going to have the games? I think the NBA went through an issue with,
and I think there was 1 year, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, maybe it wasn't with YouTube TV, maybe it was one of the TV channel providers, but they ended up not getting a deal done for week 1. So they had the kickoff and everything went black.
That might have been Cox, now that I'm thinking about it.
That might have been Cox.
But I just don't. Well, you know why those are happening, right? Because these cable providers are saying F you to the leagues because they're charging such a ridiculous premium for these deals. Look what's happening right now with Paramount CBS, that they're redoing their deals. NFL went back to the table 5 years, I think, before their deal was actually up. And on top of that, they're asking CBS, Skydance, whatever you want to call it at this point, they're asking for a 60% raise per year on a new deal. What?
Well, by the way, Spectrum in 2023, and then last year it was Disney and YouTube TV.
Oh, don't get me started with that,
because he had that same issue a couple years ago.
Because I couldn't watch certain. I couldn't watch the NBA. I couldn't watch college football. I couldn't watch anything. I think we lost some Monday night football games in there too. But cord cutting is the way of the future. Obviously, no one's going to deny that. But at the same time, you still need television. You still need local providers. Now, Count and I have been talking about the RSN deaths that have been going on lately, because you look at the one in Seattle with the
Mariners,
with Root Sports, or
the Angels buying 50% of FanDuel Sportsnet West.
Well, the Angels have issues for more reasons than just
that was another thing, because I remember watching, I watched a clip from First Take where Mad Dog was going off about, MLB, like, I can't watch opening day for the
on opening day. Yeah.
And Mets, because the Yankees are on Netflix and the Mets are on NBC/Peacock.
Okay.
I get his frustration, but you have to remember this. Yankees, big market team, Giants, big market team, historical rivalry going back many years. Of course they're going to take that game. The New York Mets, big market with their talent, plus Paul Skeens. You can say what you will about the Pirates, but Paul Skeens is a star. Of course they're going to take that game and bring it national.
Yeah, but here's the problem with the opening week as Yankee fans, especially Tom. One game was local of those 3 games. Okay, that is a problem.
Well, I get what you mean. But the third game for Yankees Giants was on Fox, so you could watch that channel.
Well, I did, but again,
and unfortunately, to Callan's point, the RSN model. Now, maybe, yes, SNY here in New York is an exception.
Chicago,
But
Philadelphia,
the RSN
LA.
model
Yeah.
for most of the United States of America is failing, especially because of the collapse of the FanDuel network, previously Bally Sports, where a bunch of teams, 10 plus MLB teams, going into opening day, and Callan, your Padres are one of them,
We were the first team affected in 2023.
did not
May
have
May
a
of
local
23.
outlet.
Well, you could talk about the Padres, Cleveland, Colorado.
MLB TV is producing those games.
Well, which is now owned by ESPN.
Right.
But my point is, and what Dog's point was that opening day, everybody should have access to opening day or the opening series, because that's the beginning of the season, for crying out loud.
Again, in the spirit of fandom, yes. But again, when these streaming services and the leagues talk big money, we're gonna lose.
It's all about the money.
I know that. I know that phrasing all too well. Yeah. But
all right,
well, I'll just share.
Gentlemen, all right, guys.
I'll just share one thing. I spoke to somebody that actually, they were making Nick's point as well. She wanted to watch the opening night game, and she doesn't have Netflix, and she got very upset that she was not able to watch the opening night game. Despite the fact that it's our local team. And so, but on the other hand, opening day in baseball is, after opening day, baseball kind of goes into a lull because it's just such a long season. But there is excitement around opening day. So that's why some of these platforms are paying the extra money to get those opening games. Start
of new life, everybody 0-0. Now, the one thing I will give to you, Nick, when going back to Mad Dog's argument, just to wrap things up, is yes, it is annoying that, what we've got a lot of games on, yes, but then you have some games on Fox. You have some games that are going to be on, Sunday Night Baseball, which, you know what?
Prime Video.
Those aren't too bad, but Prime Video Wednesdays here in New York. For
Apple TV Plus on Fridays.
Apple TV taking some of those
Sunday lead off on NBC and Peacock.
Roku.
Well, Roku's gone now.
Oh, Roku's gone? Okay.
Yeah. That's what the NBC
lead right, because there were the rumors that Friday Night Baseball was going to go to Peacock, and then Apple TV got back.
Well, I think this is the last season for Apple, though. I think they're going away after this season, but
I hope, just because I enjoy that they're trying new things, but they just fail at executing them.
Well, that's Rob Manfred for you. All right, you can move on now.
Yeah.
With that, though, guys, before we do that, though, as a reminder to our viewers out there, we're pushing hard for 4,000 watch hours to get the ETB network monetized. If you're enjoying the show tonight, leave the stream running, share the link, and also, more importantly, use our live chat box on Facebook or on YouTube and on Twitter. Every minute that you watch helps keep the lounge open. So, again, we appreciate your patronage here on this Monday night. But again, go like and subscribe, youtube.com/ETB network, and help out with that push to 4,000 watch hours on this Monday night. We really appreciate you all for being here this evening.
I will say, Nick, I understand your sentiment of wanting to boycott, but you know what? I'm taking in every ounce of baseball I can this season.
I get it. And I get totally where you're coming from, but I'm just not going to sit and watch a baseball game where I can't flip the channel. Sorry.
With that, guys, we'll move on, though, to the biggest story of the weekend, though, for the bar brawl of the evening. Of course, guys, Tiger Woods having another DUI arrest on Friday. We broke the news here on Friday afternoon after the real first news broke over the course of that day. Tiger Woods was, again, gentlemen, arrested in Martin County, Florida this weekend after striking a trailer and rolling his SUV. Now, while the breathalyzer came back 0.00, he refused, though, to submit a urine test, which led to charges of DUI and refusal to submit to a lawful test, with some believing Tiger's medication from the injuries is what led to his DUI over the course of the weekend. Nick Morgasen, at the age of 50 years old, with 3 major crashes in his history, including 2 in the last 5 years, is it finally time that we stop asking when Tiger will play again and start asking how we can better support his life away from the game of golf finally after this 3rd incident that he's been in?
So 4 DUIs now on his record. I think, number one, stop driving. Number one, stop driving. You're filthy, stinking rich, for crying out loud. You've made $1 billion plus in your career in golf. You're telling me you don't have enough to afford a private driver 24/7 around the clock? You're telling me that doesn't exist? Now, this might be a partial extreme example that I bring up, but this reminds me a little bit of Henry Ruggs, a little bit. Because now, the one thing, if you want to debate it slightly, is Henry Ruggs ended up killing somebody because he was driving 123 miles an hour in a sports car and he was completely drunk and not realizing where he was. But, and I think, Tom, you and I had discussed this when this incident had come out, the NFL has their own version of Uber in their disposal, and it's free. That's the even more ridiculous part of it.
Well, I've heard the theory that Tiger might like driving so much because, I don't know if you had said it, Callan, maybe Nick Diaz, the idea of control, that golf, the fact that he can get behind the wheel, he's able to do something rather than depend on somebody else. But kind of like what you said, when you've got all the money in the world and you've got the injuries and health conditions that somebody like Tiger Woods has,
he was getting ready to come back to be in the Masters too, which was what, April 9th, I think.
Yeah.
He just played in the TGL finals.
Well, if I was the sponsor of the TGL, I would pull out. I would, because I don't want to be involved with Tiger Woods if he can't keep himself out of the spotlight for the wrong reasons. But we all know there's too much money involved in the TGL, so it's going to survive. And Tiger Woods will get another slap on the wrist for his 4th DUI, and he's not going to do any jail time because he's Tiger Woods.
Tom, we're watching the slow moral decay of probably 1A, 1B, 1C when it comes to golf's Mount Rushmore, alongside Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus. As obviously we were all of the belief that when we were kids watching Tiger, he made, D-Mark can disagree with me all he wants. Tiger Woods made watching golf a spectacle when we were all kids. I remember parking myself on the living room floor. I mean, he could be up by 20 strokes, though, but you wanted to watch him, though, for what was he going to do next. The chip shot where the ball's on the edge of the hole and it goes in, the fist pump culture, wearing the Sunday red.
Whenever I was little, I would put ESPN News on. I would always be wondering, when they talked about golf, what did Tiger do today? What did Tiger do today? What did he do today? Did he win something today? Where did he finish?
Yeah.
He's somebody who made golf for me. Thank you, Christy.
Yeah, he did. He made golf fun for everyone to watch, and I still would call myself a golf fan, but more like Saturday or Sunday when there's like a lull in the day with baseball, or if I'm at home and I'll, watch though. And obviously, we're all enamored now in a way by Scotty Scheffler, kind of like become like the modern day version. But Tom, how much though does another DUI though, another rollover crash though in a way, really morally decay Tiger Woods' image, though, away from the golf course?
It's sad. Now, I'm not going to sit here like Danny Rappaport and just, start crying.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that was a little awkward to sit there last night.
That was a bad look by Danny Rappaport, who, by the way, got
Tiger
called
Woods
out.
didn't die.
And he got called out by his former boss, Dave Portnoy, because he used to work at Barstool. I mean, like you said, he didn't die. He just is an idiot and doesn't know how to drive. I mean, and I know that's harsh, but
no, it's true, and it's like, when we're talking about legacy, this is a case where you have to separate, especially if you're a golf fan, and you really were brought up on Tiger Woods, or you're so enamored with the history of golf, where you got to separate art and artist. Tiger Woods can be one of the greatest. You can consider Tiger Woods to be one of the greatest, not the greatest golfer of all time. And at the same time, talk about how he is a morally challenged person who has issues and needs to clean up. And, he made an idiotic choice. And this is the 4th time it's happened. You think about 2009. I was worried after 2009 as a teenager that Tiger Woods was not going to come back from that. The fact that he crashes his car and then almost immediately after, falls into all this trouble with his marriage and infidelity. And I was just going through social media the other day, and somebody was talking about the day of the Iron Bowl in 2009, getting the updates where it was like first it was like, okay, Tiger Woods has been involved in a serious accident, and questioning about what his condition was and if he was going to live. And at the end of the day, basically, he made a stupid choice and ended up getting charges against him. The infidelity came out not long after. I said last night I'd like to make the joke that he crashed into a tree and a bunch of women fell out.
Yes, I remember that too.
2017, he gets another DUI charge, and we get the meme of Tiger Woods and a clean-faced young Tiger Woods right next to the mugshot. And it's like journalists in their byline versus journalists in real life.
I mean, just to point something else out, because there's some irony between 2017 and now 2026. First of all, the crash took place also in Jupiter, Florida. Number one.
Yes.
Number two, I don't think that was a rollover crash. I think he just crashed in 2017.
The last rollover was in 21 after the Genesis tournament out here at the Riviera in LA.
But remember, they said he blew a .00 on the for the toxicology stuff, or for the breathalyzer. Sorry. And people were like, "How is that possible that he blew a .00?"
Yeah, you know what? The fact that he refused the urine test, you're going to get yourself in trouble just for that.
You get arrested because you're not following a police command.
Correct.
But at the same time, because they said there were drugs in his system. Or I was going to do it, but I don't
Damn
think
it.
that's not appropriate, though. I can't do that.
Yeah.
No.
Well, no, I'm of the belief, though, because of the pain he's been in, guys, the back surgeries, 2 broken legs, the bad ACL, there's got to be a bunch of, pills he is on because of the injuries that he's accumulated over the last.
Yeah, well, you say that. Well, you say that, and my first instinct goes to Kurt Angle, the former Olympic gold medalist turned WWE star who went through so much damn pain medication because of all the injuries to his neck.
The broken freaking neck.
Right.
Well,
but eventually in 2013, he ended up going into rehab to clean himself up. And, when you have 4 of these kinds of incidents, for somebody like Tiger, this is the time where you say, okay, I got to go get help.
Well, he's got to go to rehab. That's really the answer.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, he's got to get help.
But it's interesting you brought that up. I'll tell a quick story. Nothing bad happened, but when my dad was going through, he's had like 25 surgeries ever since he had a car accident in early 2000.
See?
Right. I'm going to talk about that slightly.
Oh, okay.
So my dad's had 25 plus surgeries. I've been in and out of hospitals with my dad since 3rd grade. So he had a bone fall out of his leg. It was a whole thing. And he's had tons of surgeries, like some that were 15 to 17 hour surgeries. Like that's how long some of them would take. But when they would send him home eventually, because he stayed in the hospital sometimes for weeks or months, and they would give him oxycodone.
Oh.
So what Christy is saying is accurate, but he never had an issue. Let me clear that for the record. But what do they tell you when they give you an oxycodone or something of that regard? You have to watch the person who is taking the medication because there's addictive qualities to oxycodone.
Yes.
And they literally told my dad when they gave the medication, be careful with this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it could kill you taking this stuff if you're not careful.
It's like wanting to press the red button.
Right. Like they almost need to put like an encasing around it, like in case of emergency, break glass, like if I need it. But if you look at in 2017 with Tiger Woods, Vicodin, Dilaudid, Xanax, Ambien, and THC were in his system when he got arrested for DUI in 2017.
Yeah,
so,
Christy, I agree. Sadly, I've had my fair share too. I'm sure that we've all had fair share of friends of ours who've gotten addicted and they can't seem to kick the habits, whatever it is. Painkillers, smoking, tobacco, gambling, drinking.
Isn't that scary, though, that painkillers have addictive qualities to them?
I mean, who would have thunk it, though? But I guess when you're in so much pain, you just kind of get numb to it or used to it, sadly.
Now, we don't know what was in Tiger's system because, again, it was not confirmed because they're saying it was drug-related, not alcohol-related. But it goes back to, like I said, those 5 drugs were in his system in 2017. Are we having a repeat of 2017 all over again where he's taking drugs? Now, are these leftover prescription medications? Because people hold on to medications for what? 5 to 7 years, sometimes
without throwing them out. Exactly.
And that's how a drug addict, unfortunately, happens, because people don't realize how addictive some of these things are. Oh, I have a small pain in my body. Fine, I'll take an oxycodone instead of taking an Advil or a Tylenol.
Yeah.
And that's when it starts, unfortunately. Tiger Woods needs to go to rehab. He needs to go to rehab. He needs to clean up. Now, what's the thing, Tom, I used to say all the time? What's the first step to someone who has
admitting you have the problem?
Right. And until he admits he has a problem and he needs help, he's gonna just be on that hamster wheel, just running in place until something bad, unfortunately, happens.
Dino, how about your thoughts here about Tiger Woods?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, yes, he really needs to stop driving. I mean, it's like, if it happens once, okay, but it's happened 4 times, then it's time to quit driving. Clearly, yeah, he definitely has been in a lot of pain. I mean, obviously the car accidents have not helped. I know one major issue he had when he attempted to return from that other accident was that he couldn't walk the golf course for all 4 days, which shows, the fact that he just couldn't complete the course because he couldn't walk it shows you that he definitely was in pain. So I think, yeah, painkillers may definitely be a major issue for him right now. And he's not the only one. It's a major issue in the entire United States. And
it's a whole issue in society across the board. I agree.
So, unfortunately, I mean, like Tom was saying, this does not degrade him as a golfer. He is still one of the best golfers to ever play the game. But it's just unfortunate that his life outside of golf has had a lot of issues that, perhaps will lead some people to detract from his character as a golfer. But yeah, I think Nick is right. He may need to go to rehab at this point and really try to clean himself up.
And Nick, to relate to the story that you had, see Christy's comment here.
Yeah, and Christy, I was actually going to bring that up when my grandmother was kind of on her way out after she had broken her pelvis in a fall. The hospital screwed up mightily and gave her the wrong medication, and it just about killed her too. They gave her morphine and not the actual one she was supposed to get. So that was, I concur 100%. But I mean, even then, all the best though to Tiger. I mean, but please though, my man, get some help though, and that's all we really can ask.
And don't drive.
I do have something a little more lighthearted if we're done with this topic.
Yes, we are.
Okay, a little bit of a development in tonight's Yankees-Mariners game. According to, I didn't really see this, obviously, because we're doing this show.
Wasn't there like 4 challenges in the beginning of that game also?
Something like that. And apparently, even though Aaron Boone won a challenge with the ABS, or one of the players won the challenge on the ABS, I should say, in the Yankees' favor, Aaron Boone still called the umpire an effing idiot and got ejected.
Of course he did.
Yes, already. I love it.
Is that a local game or a national game, by the way?
All right.
It's a local
I believe so.
Man.
So,
But that guy
so the Yankees win the challenge, and Aaron Boone gets ejected anyway.
Yeah,
for his first
get out of
ejection
here.
of the year.
Exactly. Oh man, that was great, and not as bad. That was Derek Shelton, by the way, on Sunday, getting ejected with the Twins.
Oh my
Orioles
God,
game.
he had a blow up.
And by the way, CB Buckner, I think, needs to go back to umpire school. The amount of calls he's had overturned.
Did you hear the audio we were playing of it yesterday?
Yes.
The more it happened, the more annoyed
Like
and
I
defeated
said,
his voice got.
His voice was hysterical.
The 2 calls back to back where he tried to ring up whoever the Reds batter was, and being wrong twice. I'm sure. And you saw CB make the face. He's like, God damn it. I'm wrong twice in a row.
Which went to my comment last night. The defeat in his voice was just so bad.
I'm wondering, though, if the umpires are like, shit, now we just look stupid out there.
Yeah, well, it goes to what I said. Well, now it goes to what I said yesterday. You know, we had the technology to the point where we had a Twitter account putting out report cards of these umpires. Well, there's no hiding with the human element anymore.
That was the point I made last night because I said there used to be Quest Tech in every stadium. Now, Nick D had no idea what I was saying when I said Quest Tech. Quest Tech used to be in every stadium in Major League Baseball back in the early 2000s, and it would grade every umpire's game, and most of them would get like D's and F's for the strike zone because
that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like I get it. You know, the old school fans want to preserve the human element of the game, but you know what? With all the technology that's available to us in these days, the umpires are going to get eviscerated one way or another.
It's true.
Brutal.
So you might as well use it.
Go ahead.
I said you might as well use it.
Yeah.
Wait, SpongeBob, we're not cavemen. We have
technology.
Of course, you would take a computer and smash a dollar bill because that makes total sense.
Work. All right, guys, we'll go from all things across the sports world, from all things soccer and baseball and golf to all things March Madness. And it was pure madness in the nation's capital on Sunday. UConn stuns Duke at the final horn after the Blue Devils blew a 19-point lead, setting up a matchup between UConn and Illinois, 2 versus 3, while we've got Arizona and Michigan on the flip side, 1 versus 1. On the women's side, UConn is back in their 25th women's Final Four in the Valley of the Sun after they routed Notre Dame 70-52, while UCLA also moved on, beating Duke 70-58 to punch their tickets for the upcoming weekend. Mr. Albano, what stood out with you, or for you, though, across all things March Madness, including Duke going out in utter disparity, in utter disappointment on Sunday from the nation's capital after blowing a 19-point lead?
Fun fact for those who missed it last night from Ben Cruz. I believe he said that teams, number 1 seeds, who had a 15-point lead during the games like this in March Madness, were like 140-something and 0.
Yes.
And then Duke blew it last night, or a couple nights ago. And the thing is, you know, Florida obviously was probably the most disappointing of all the 1 seeds based on the fact that they lost in a pretty early round. I think the round of 32.
I think they were out in Sweet 16, I believe, if memory serves me correct.
16,
Sweet 16.
Sweet 16 and losing, I think, to Iowa. You know, you had the rise of Iowa at the.
Oh, no.
It was round of 32.
It was round of 32. Callan was right. Yeah.
Okay. And losing to Iowa in the round of 32 and the rise of that school, obviously. As much as you can make the argument, and Nick D and Ben and I were talking about this last night, you can make that argument about Florida being the worst of the 1 seeds. I feel like you could say, though, that Duke was probably the most disappointing 1 seed, though. The fact that the only round that they looked good in was the round of 32 game where they had the blowouts, I think, against TCU. They nearly lost to Siena. The only reasons they didn't lose to Siena was, 1, Siena had only 5 starters play almost the entire game, and
they played the entire game. It wasn't most.
They made one sub with
1 sub late in the game. 1 sub late in the game.
Like
and then number 2,
yeah.
And then number 2, obviously, you know, as much as the craziness of March Madness can go, you know, the Duke Blue Devils playing the ACC versus Siena, who plays in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. Obviously, 2 different levels of competition. So when you're making that kind of mistake, just keeping all 5 guys out there for whatever reason, obviously a team like Duke should be able to overcome that. But they nearly didn't. And then the round of 16, you know, if it wasn't for the fact that I still believe, despite what Nick deemed, that St. John's just ran out of gas, and then all the back and forth foul trouble, and then that shot late in the game where he tried the fadeaway, that was just not the shot. I think that young athlete just had the excitement that I could make the shot, the winning shot, and just
from the last game.
Yeah, and it just did not go in his favor.
Exactly, no.
But they were still down by 1 at the half. Like
They
had
They should have won that game.
right. So I would argue, and then doing this kind of crap, historical, despite you could say what you want about, UConn being a terrific college basketball program, the 140 something and with a 15-point lead for number 1 seeds, and you lose like that, combined with your previous efforts, yeah, I think Duke was one of the weakest. Not on paper. On paper, you look at that lineup, you got NBA caliber players.
Well, they had injuries throughout the entire
and they
tournament.
had injuries, yes, but still, if you're want to talk about disappointments, it just overall, Duke was a really disappointing team in how they played this in this March Madness.
And I would take it as far, though, as that, obviously that's a learning moment for the Boozers. But what are you doing, though, up by 1 with 10 seconds left? You have to go link to the floor, get the ball across the timeline. Don't do anything stupid.
Did they have a timeout?
They had no timeouts left either.
That's even worse.
But if you hold the ball, they're going to foul you. So he really
wasn't going to foul either.
Well, that was smart on their part, waiting for them to let the clock run out. But
I will say, and maybe this is a little bit of network bias in me, I'm really looking forward to Illinois versus UConn.
I think that's going to be an incredible matchup. Though.
And by the way, Tom, I wanted to ask you, this just popped in my head. I'll get to Nick and Dino here in a second. Tom, let's hypothetically say Dan Hurley wins another national title at UConn. And obviously there was a lot of rumblings over the past couple years when they beat San Diego State in 23. He was linked to NBA jobs with the Lakers and other things. And Hurley basically said, F you, I'm staying here and to stay with what I've built.
He's got a job for life.
Well, I was going to say, though, Tom, away from that, if Hurley wins another natty for the men's basketball team, who, as we all know, has been in the shadow of Gino Ariema's team for the last 40 years, if Hurley wins another natty, does he leapfrog Kevin Ollie and even Jim Calhoun as the best basketball coach of UConn men's basketball history?
I really don't know if he jumps Jim Calhoun at that. I think he solidifies his status as one of the greatest college basketball coaches ever.
I mean, 2 natties? Yeah.
Right. I just don't know if he jumps Jim Calhoun.
3.
Oh, 3. Right.
It'd be 3, yeah.
I don't know. When I look at the East part of the bracket, I think that was the most competitive part of the bracket, the East. It had all the big teams in it.
Right. And to the point, again, with the argument between disappointing performances with the 1 seeds, like with Florida. I mean, in all fairness, you look at Florida's bracket, you had obviously Iowa coming out and surging, in a March Madness where upsets were in Cinderellas were few and far between.
I mean, really, what were the only real ones we really had? Like, High Point beating Wisconsin?
High Point, Iowa. But I'm saying in terms of competition, in addition
Texas beating Gonzaga, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep.
But in terms of competition, the top 3 seeds in that part of the bracket, if I'm not mistaken, joining them were Houston and Illinois. And you got Illinois now in the Final Four. And Houston was a tough competitor who was looking to, as a 2 seed, who was looking to, get revenge after falling short in last season's championship.
Yeah.
Well, Houston was a favorite to go back to the Elite 8.
I had them going.
I had them in my
Houston
final.
was a big
I had them going back to the championship.
I mean, and then you almost had Texas beat Purdue. That would have been a massive upset.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that was a play-in 11 seed Texas team who was making that run, by the way, for those who forgot.
I mean, just looking around at the rest of the bracket, I mean, nothing else stands out too much. I mean, Michigan totally beating the crap out of Rick Barnes in Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee just had no shot. I mean, Tennessee beating Iowa State also, a 6 versus a 2. Illinois making a run. I mean, when Zan and I did the picks for our show, we had Illinois out at the Sweet 16. That's where we saw the ceiling. But then they beat Illinois. They beat Houston. And
let's not forget that game was being played in Houston, too. So Houston really was a bit of a disappointment, in my opinion.
Callan, how is that not violating the rules that you're not supposed to be?
Did Houston actually play that game in Houston?
Yes.
Well, it wasn't on their campus, obviously. It was at the Toyota Center in Houston.
Yeah, but I thought the rules were that you couldn't play within your home state. I thought that was the rule.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it wasn't.
I don't think so. It's happened before, I'm pretty sure.
Callan, I thought you and I had discussed that, didn't we?
Oh, crap.
I mean, are you saying they would have to make that for the whole region, though? I mean,
You
Houston was
can't-
the 2 seed. They weren't the 1 seed.
Oh, wait. You can't be the host region. That's what it is.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So then if that's the case, how could they play in Houston, though?
I couldn't tell you. And I think that goes
Maybe-
to, but I think
I
though
was
that
gonna say maybe like Elite Eight is the exception.
that,
don't know.
or as I also pointed out, that the main thing though too, guys, is a lot of the East Coast teams who got shipped out to the West Coast to play in San Diego or or wherever for the first round of a tournament.
Yeah.
Go ask LIU who had to go all the way to San Diego.
Yeah. And St.
Well,
John's.
it's not like they were going to beat Kitty Cats anyway, Morgasen.
Right.
Surprises me a little bit, but Christy. But you know what? I think Illinois had a very good team this season. I think, the fact that they competed in a really tough Big Ten conference, I thought they were viable. I don't know if
Illinois is a
I
very
would have
good
had them
team,
making
but-
it.
But
I probably would have
Houston really
said Sweet
should've-
16, Elite 8, but they were viable.
So the Final Four, by the way, is 2 Big Ten schools, the Big East and the Big 12. For those who are curious,
So it looks like I might run away with our group bracket, though.
if UFA stumbles and Michigan gets in, I win the group, even though Duke was my national champion.
Yeah, because I had
But-
Arizona winning it all.
All I can say is I can't wait in chats this week to see any sort of fireworks between Zan and Will and Grant versus Ben with the Illinois UConn semifinal.
That would have been a fascinating live stream if we somehow were able to do that. But because Zan is going to the Final Four to cover it for media's
Mhm.
sake. Just looking around at the rest of the bracket, like UConn, Michigan State was a really good game down the stretch.
Mhm.
Duke, St. John's. St. John's should have won that game. Duke had no business winning that game whatsoever, but St. John's kind of just fell apart. And
Seeing St. John's in the Elite Eight would have been amazing.
I had them going all the way to the Final Four. I mean, I didn't think they were going to win, but
I thought the fact that they were a 5 seed was disrespectful.
Very disrespectful.
what were you thinking? Like a 3?
Probably a 3.
Fair.
I could see that. I mean, they had tough competition their whole way, though.
Yeah.
If you look, except for obviously playing Northern Iowa, which was a joke. But then they had to play Kansas, and then they had to play Duke. I mean, like, their road was not easy.
Not at all.
No. Well, that's why they should have been a higher seed. I mean, they got disrespected with the seeding and the path that they had when they
Did they
really
win
should
the
have
Big
had an
East?
easier path.
Did they win the conference this year, or was that UConn?
They did.
They did.
No, the St. John's won both regular season and conference tournament.
Yeah,
that.
They
UConn
won both. They were a 5 seed.
They
for
put
crying out
UConn
loud.
as UConn as a 2, and they put St. John's as a 5.
Even though St. John's beat them 2 out of 3 times.
No, I'll tell you
And
what that was. You want to know what that was, Callan? That was where's my sound over here? This one. That one.
Maybe.
Well, no, because UConn's a bigger school than St. John's, so we got to have them as a higher seed.
And yet
That's-
St. John's plays at the Garden, and UConn plays in a little town called Storrs, Connecticut.
But my point is, they want all the higher teams. The NCAA is not going to tell you to your face. They're going to lie to you and say that they want Cinderella stories and they want all this stuff. That they're lying to you is what they're doing. They want all 4 1 seeds. Which, by the way, I was just reading that the women have all 4 1 seeds that made it to the Final Four.
Yes,
Right?
they do.
Well, it happens a lot on the women's side, I think.
Well, I don't think there's as much competition on the women's side as there is on the men's side.
So
But
that's UConn, UCLA, Texas, and South Carolina.
yeah. But they want the big schools on the men's side because they know that's what's going to drive their ratings. They don't care
Mhm.
about Oshkosh, Wisconsin making it to the Final Four. They don't care about any of these schools. I'm trying to think like UMBC or Loyola or all these schools that made the runs.
And,
over
and
the
that
years.
reminds me of 23, for example. It was UConn, San Diego State, Miami, Florida, and Florida Atlantic who made the Final Four that year. And obviously, SDSU got to the title game, and they got walloped by UConn.
And I guarantee you, and the NCAA was pissed at that Final Four. I bet.
It's like the big market, small market debates when we talk about it with the major sports leagues.
Well, Callan and I, when he first came on here, like you remember the NBA Finals situation? We had an argument with a certain somebody who used to be here.
With it being Indiana, Oklahoma City.
That series went 7 games, by the way.
And if it wasn't for
Yeah, it was a good
Halliburton ripping his,
series.
and if it wasn't for Tyrese Halliburton injuring his Achilles, that game would have gone down to the wire again. I bet you anything.
If Tyrese Halliburton doesn't get hurt, I think the Pacers win that series.
They probably do.
I think. Now, fallacy of predetermined outcome, you don't know. But I
It
think
would have been close at least.
it would have been incredibly close. I think Game 7 would have come down to defense more than offense if that was the case. But long story short, I think the tournament has been great. I think this is a great Final Four. Zan is ecstatic with Illinois being in.
I don't blame him. Hey, I was just ecstatic for the fact Hofstra made it into the tournament.
Now, I want to look this up again on DraftKings, but did you see that Illinois was the betting favorite?
They are, yeah. Which surprised me.
That surprised me.
I'm
It
looking
does.
it up. Let's see if they have it here still. Oh, okay. Let's see. Illinois is a 2.5-point favorite going into the game right now, which I don't know if that's what you call a classic bite situation by Vegas, where in this case I would bite and I would take UConn plus 2.5. I would even take
Probably.
I would take the money line. I don't. And no disrespect to the Illinois fans we have on here, but UConn is the better team.
If they
And they're the
actually-
ones with recent
They were
success.
doing on Sunday.
But to have Illinois as a 2.5 favorite, you want to talk about disrespect to UConn?
I thought it'd be UConn as the 2.5 favorite.
And they have the over/under at 139.5. They're expecting an offensive explosion in this
Hey, both
game.
teams are shooting the ball well, then absolutely.
Yeah, probably.
But if
Well, actually, that's not that high. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, you could do something like
it's
70-something to 60-something or 70-something
that's
to
not that
70.
high. The other game is set higher. The other game is at like 147.
it's
The Michigan, Arizona.
no, it's 157.5.
157. Okay, even higher.
157.5. I was like, holy
I mean, those
crap.
are both high-scoring teams.
Yeah, but to expect almost 80 points out of each side, whoa.
I mean, that's how much Michigan and Arizona have been scoring, though. You
Also,
know, that's-
Disrespectful to Arizona that Michigan's a 1.5 favorite.
Yeah.
Nobody, I mean,
And
hopefully,
the
what do you
fact-
expect? They've
as
been
long
blowing everybody out.
as long as both games are close and they're down to the wire and they're exciting, it's all that really matters to me. If we get a couple of blowouts here, yikes.
Yeah. I was going to say, and the fact
I
that
think we'll have good games.
Michigan didn't even win their conference. They were supposed to. They were
Just hit
favored
hot at
to.
the right time.
This is a
Well-
classic argument Nick D and I have all the time about wins and losses and whether records should really matter.
Yeah.
Go look
by
at go look at Miami, Ohio, who went undefeated and they didn't even make the actual bracket.
Oh, by the way, Nick, the question you asked before, yeah, the New York Yankees overturned 5 Mike Estabrook strikes with ABS challenges in the first 3.5 innings of their game.
Oh my God!
I thought you only get 2 challenges.
If you're correct,
if you keep winning, you retain them.
Okay, yeah.
which is a good rule because if you run out of challenges, like
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what it's a little iffy to use them so early though. Because
shit.
if
The
you're
Mariners-
wrong,
the Mariners just went on a walk off.
We got walked off on in Game 4 of the season.
Cal Raleigh walk off single down the line, right field line.
Better
Of
call
course
the
the big
WFAN bitch about the Yankees tomorrow morning, boys.
No, I'm good.
After the 4th game of the season. All right, guys, we're going to go and settle the bill for some NFL, NWSL, and NBA charges. Again, guys, we have 3 things you can pick from here. This is more about smart investment or over tipping. So basically, yay or nay on the 3 charges on the bill tonight. Again, we had the wave of NWSL signing Katarina Marcario to the $8 million contract through 2030 with the new high-impact player rule. The NBA expanding the draft lottery to 18 teams with flattened odds at 8% for the bottom 10 to curb tanking, or the recent wave of veterans who have signed 1-year prove it or lose it deals in the National Football League for free agency. Nick, where do you want to start, though? You can pick one for smart investment or over tipping for this argument.
I have no idea where to start here.
Go from there.
Can you repeat them one more time? Because I just can't remember them.
You've got the record-breaking contract of Catarina Marcario for the Wave with the new NWSL hip rule. The NBA front office trying to curb the draft lottery and tanking by making it with 18 teams, or any third wave of veterans who have signed prove-it deals for 1 year in the NFL free agency.
So the NBA one is dumb. I'm just going to say that right
We'll
now.
have more about that a bit later, though, but yes.
A new proposal to expand the draft lottery to 18 teams. That one is incredibly stupid. So you're going to make the odds even smaller now for teams that are bad teams to get to the top of the draft. That's not curbing tanking. That's going to cause more tanking, and it's going to cause more losing because you want your percentage to be higher. So I would say that one is dumb. NFL free agency, the third wave of veterans signing 1-year prove-it deals. That happens in every sport. So that one really doesn't do it for me. I would say the record contract for Katarina under the hip rule is probably the one I would settle on, because that hopefully will change the sport, hopefully, which will lead to more revenue and lead to more eyeballs on the game. I think that's the most important story here, because we talk about how women's sports doesn't get the attention it deserves when it comes to money, or whether it comes to sponsors or revenue or attention. I would say I would settle up on San Diego Wave and Katarina's contract, probably. That's where I would see it.
All right, Tom. So one pick for smart investment being Catarina Marcario's new deal with the Wave, and of course the over-tipping being the NBA front office trying to curb tanking. Tom, how do you settle the bill on Miss Monday with these three options on the table?
I'm going to agree with Nick Morgasen. My yay is going to go to Katarina because, you know what? Like I said before, big money contract, first year in the league with this team, a league that is growing in ways, just set a big record, good for the sport, good for the league itself, trying to get eyeballs on the league, trying to keep its players here in the States and not go overseas, trying to make growth with the NWSL and get more eyes, not just on the women's soccer league, but on soccer in general here in the States. So big thumbs up to that. Adam Silver and the NBA, it is ridiculous. It feels like every year they try something new. And you know what? The teams just tank anyway. I mean, we were about, 10, 15 games, somewhere along that lines, still remaining in the NBA. In the Western Conference, the playoff teams are determined already, if you include the play-in tournament. Then you have on the Eastern Conference side teams where, sorry, Nick, but the Nets, it's pathetic how they played. Less than 20 wins at this point.
You're not telling me something I don't know. That's new.
And sorry to Zan and his fellow Chicagoans here in New York. The Bulls, pathetic.
Well, and the Bulls are dealing with another situation of their own, too.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that?
What now?
That one of their players decided to go on social media and go against LGBTQ community stuff.
Crying out loud.
Yeah, that was. I don't know if anyone else saw that story, but the Chicago Bulls had to waive Jaden Ivey after his recent anti-LGBTQ comments on streaming video.
I try to give the NBA so many chances, but sometimes there just gets to a point where it's like, what are we doing here?
I mean, just to look at the NBA standings, because you were bringing them up, if you look at after the 10th seed because I hate this stupid play-in tournament, it's just another desperate attempt for the NBA to try to make more money, which didn't work.
The SoFi NBA play-in tournament.
But look at in the Eastern Conference from 11 all the way down, 29 wins, 29 wins, 18 wins, 17 wins, 17 wins. Okay? Can you imagine? So the Nets have 57 losses. 57 losses. The Wizards have 58 losses, and the Pacers have 58 losses. As a fan base, what the hell are you supposed to say? And what do you tell your fan base after a 58 to 60 loss season?
Which, Nick, in a way, went to our longstanding point about the Pacers. You really can't group them in the tanking category because their star player is hurt and they lost Miles Turner in free agency. They're the exception to the rule.
I just find it so funny guys, I just find it so funny. Now, obviously, different kinds of sports, 82 game season versus 17 game season, but the NFL has none of these kinds of rules that the NBA has put in place. I think there's more tanking these days in the NBA than there is in the NFL.
And the funny
agree.
part is, in the NFL, I would say the NFL and the NBA have the most capital to gain from tanking.
Mm-hmm.
Because in baseball, you can give two shits about tanking because the draft doesn't matter. The NHL, I don't know if the draft does matter in the NHL.
Mm-hmm. And they have a lottery, and I think it's
lottery.
fine. And if the NFL ever went to a lottery system, I'd be fine with it. But it's all the extra rules that the NBA puts in, where it's like this number of teams got to be even, the percentage odds, and then the every other year.
Worst team gets a 20, like NHL, worst team gets a 25.5% chance. Bottom 5, bottom 6 get like 14.
This is stupid. If you have the worst record in the NBA, you get the first overall pick. That's it. That's what it should be. And it should go down and up. That's it. If you're the worst record, you're the worst record. Second best, second worst, and down. And that's it.
What if we did a lottery for anybody not named the top team? What if it was like a lottery for teams 2 through 10, for example?
No, because if you have a lottery system, you still have to give odds to a team that probably doesn't deserve the pick. Dallas got the pick. They were not anywhere near the bottom.
Right.
How do you diffuse this problem? It's not by putting in more tanking rules. It's whoever has the worst record.
All right. Well, we're going to talk more about.
You're trying to get rid of the NBA lottery. Just the NBA lottery itself.
We'll have more about the NBA in a little bit here. Dino, your thoughts still real quick about where to settle the bill, though. Does it go to Katarina Marcario's new contract with the Wave underneath the new high-impact player rule, the NBA draft lottery, odds being changed, or NFL free agency as we enter the third wave of veterans signing their contracts?
Yeah, I gotta agree with my colleagues here. The Katarina Marcario is obviously the one where we can settle the bill for sure. Because if you're telling me you get perhaps one of the rising young stars in women's soccer and it doesn't even count against your salary cap, obviously that's a smart move. Yeah, the NBA thing just sounds ridiculous to me. Because you're saying 18 teams. In other words, we're including playoff teams.
Basically, just over 2/3 of the NBA would be, or just over half would be in the lottery at 18 teams out of the 30.
You're
That's
telling
ridiculous.
me a playoff team will have the equal chance of getting the number 1 pick as the worst team in the league. That makes absolutely no sense to me at all. Like, in other words, a team that perhaps got a, like, let's say a 6th seed or a 5th seed in the playoffs.
What if the NBA champions somehow get the number 1 pick? Which has happened before, believe it or not.
You beat me to that point.
Well, I have to do a trade, right?
Make it make sense to me.
I wish
But
I
a
could.
trade, like at least in a trade, they gave up something at an earlier date when we didn't know that they were going to be NBA champions. But if you're telling me we already know a team is in the playoffs and you're going to put them in the lottery with an equal chance at getting the number 1 pick as the worst team, that just makes no sense. That just defeats the whole purpose of the draft. The draft is to, have more of a competitive balance where you give the worst team the best available new incoming player. So it just really doesn't make sense at all. So that's my over tipping. And the other one, what is it with the NFL? Like people signing 1-year deals,
signing some late contracts is all. Nothing there.
That's just
the one thing I just wanted to say, though, because of what Dino's point. Like, look at OKC, which stockpiled all those draft picks, right? So you're talking about a team like that where they were bad for so many years, and now
but they did it naturally. They didn't do it where
yes, but eventually those picks, as a championship winning team, are going to look ridiculous that they traded for from teams that are probably bad. They're going to end up with high first-round picks because of that.
Yeah.
But imagine if OKC this year, let's say, they stumble along the way, they lose in the second round, and you're telling me they would then be eligible to get, Cameron Boozer and add him to that already incredible squad of players like that?
But you're missing one thing, though, with the fact that teams trade for picks, like you said before, where they don't know where their standing is. And a team that's really good could end up with a team's pick because they made a trade a while back. And they could end up with a team that's really bad's pick because of a trade they made 3-4 years ago. So you got to keep that in mind, too.
Okay, real quick, before we move on here real quick and get to this next timeout here. But, guys, true story, though, this actually happened. The Lakers actually got the number 1 pick in the 82 draft due to a series of trades and events that unfolded after their championship win. The Lakers got a pick from the Cavaliers, which had been dealt to the Jazz in 1979. After the Cavaliers had a poor season in 81-82, the Lakers beat out the San Diego Clippers for a coin toss for the number 1 overall pick. That pick became James Worthy.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
All because of trades made 3 years beforehand, which led the Lakers to getting a title and getting James Worthy when they beat out the Clippers for a coin toss.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. That trade was made 3 years prior, but now you're talking about...
Draft pick trading is crazy, man.
Well, that's why they put a rule in now that you have to trade every other year. That way you don't drain someone's picks purposely to make a deal. So that's why they did. You can't trade consecutive years.
You can't do what the Nets did when they traded like 3 straight first-round picks for Kevin Garnett.
Oh, and Paul Pierce and all that nonsense that they traded for. But yeah, you have to trade every other year now when you trade draft picks because they didn't want teams just completely purposely depleting their draft capital.
You could do 27 first, 28 second, 29 first, 30 second.
I want to look that up because I don't remember. But
well, guys, we'll move on real quick and remind everybody that the lounge is open every Monday and Sunday, and we want you a part of the lounge every time that we're here. Hit that subscribe button right now and ring the bell. We're building something special here at ETB, and we want you in on the ground floor. Help us reach the 4,000 watch hour goal. Go and find us at youtube.com/ETB Network, and more importantly, follow us on social media. We are at ETB Network on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. All righty, Tom, with that in mind, shocking news late on Sunday in the NHL. The Vegas Golden Knights show Bruce Cassidy the door and immediately bring in John Tortorella with only 8 games left in the NHL regular season. Team GM Kelly McCrimmon called for a need for a new level of play as the team enters the stretch run of the regular season and towards a playoff spot, with them holding a third place standing right now in the NHL's Pacific Division. But Tom is bringing torch to Vegas, a stroke of genius to wake up a stagnant locker room, or is the old school style that he has a recipe for desert disaster with only 8 games left in the regular season?
I mean, it's insanity that they're firing their head coach with 8 games in the season, regardless of who it is that they pick up. And John Tortorella, I mean, that's real crazy talk. So first of all, good luck to Vegas because you're going to get a lot of brutally honest press conferences. You're going to get a lot of maybe potential contention with some of the media out there in Las Vegas. As far as this chase, I mean, I do have to give credit where it's due. This has been an exciting NHL season in terms of the chase for the playoffs. Because with about 8 or 9 games left for most of these teams, some have 7 games left. There's only 2 teams that are out of it right now in the playoff hunt, mathematically. The Vancouver Canucks on the Western Conference side, and unfortunately on the Eastern Conference side, the New York Rangers. Damn. But as far as, look, the full quote is that a change is necessary for us to return to the level of play that is expected of our club. And look, I mean, I get it. They are, as you mentioned, third in Pacific. They're up by 4 points. Now, you get 2 points, for those who don't know, you get 2 points for a win for NHL regular season games, and 1 if your game goes to overtime and you end up losing. So the Kings are kind of on their tail, but the fact that they got to 80 points and the Oilers are just a couple of games out in front of them, I don't know about this. I mean, I get it. It's 3 straight. Let me look. So they've lost 6 of their last 7 games. They've lost 7 of their last 10. Oh, God, it's just getting worse. Going back to February 27th against the Capitals, 1-3, 1-6, 3-6, 3-9, 4-9. They are 4-12. Ever since stretching back to the end of February. 4-12. I will say right now, they are up 3-2 on the Canucks with how much time? Oh, the game just went final, empty netter. So the Vegas Golden Knights have actually won their first game with John Tortorella as their head coach. So you know what? Maybe not so much crazy talk, but I guess, you know what? It's unconventional. I'll give it a shot just simply because this is Vegas we're talking about. And like I mentioned earlier, you know, you want to talk about a team that really just, it was only 10 years ago that this team was founded. First season in the finals, 5th season ended up winning the finals. They are a team who knows playoff success, even though they are such a young team. So I'll give credit where it's due. I'll put the trust in Vegas' management. But, you know, if they end up missing the playoffs anyway, then you're just going to be fit with the questions of why didn't you let Bruce Cassidy finish the season? So I hope they know what they're doing. They got to, now that they've done this move, it's a must. You must make the playoffs.
Nick, I think the interesting notion about this was that if you were to combine the losses and the OT shootout losses, VGK would be 32 and 40, would be 32 and 42. They'd be 10 games under 500 in a regular wins-loss table with there being no OT and shootout loss, stat category to, save your bacon. There's been a long-standing joke at the Pacific Division that has Anaheim on top, Edmonton second, Vegas is third, that Anaheim's the only team above 500 if you were to go losses and OT shootout losses combined. But, of course, you have the point system in place. But, Nick, I wonder, though, if this is the right move to make with only this much time left for the regular season. You're in a playoff spot right now in the division. You've got, the fallback of the wild card being occupied by Utah and Nashville. LA's close. Seattle's close. San Jose's close right now in the Western Conference. But, Nick, maybe overall, though, your thoughts about a team electing this late in the regular season to make a coaching move like Vegas has done as of Sunday.
I'm going to alert everybody in advance in this room. I'm about to play a sound effect. But I'm going to say that they sounded the alarm.
I'm so glad I turned that down just in time.
That's why I gave you the warning beforehand. But this sounds like panic, like real panic with this one. First of all, John Tortorella kind of reminds me a little bit of Bobby Knight, a little bit, where he's going to come in and just start throwing chairs or throwing stuff like just to prove a point. Don't get me wrong. Like, I wasn't a big hockey fan, but I knew when Tortorella was here in New York. You knew, because he was always getting into fights constantly with the media. So, like, if you're expecting him to come in and be nice,
he's not going to play niceys. I was just going to say.
No.
Like, literally, it's going to be, where is it? Oh, this one.
I am having a very bad day. Today is one of the worst days that I've had in a long time.
The thing is, that's Tortorella every day when he's talking to the media or...
How funny, we were just talking about the NBA lottery, by the way, and you play that sound.
Exactly. And by the way, this is also going to be Tortorella when he talks to the media.
Because he's a raw pain in the ass.
Literally.
Which is funny because some players in the NHL consider John Tortorella a royal pain in the ass.
Exactly. Hey, he was working at ESPN. He basically got pulled out of a cushy job in a studio to go
And
and
I
be a
thought he was
coach.
great when he was doing stuff for ESPN, by the way.
Well, because that's his wheelhouse. Because he can be all the personality he wants.
Oh, he's great as a studio analyst.
Should have stayed there, to be honest. This is not the first time he's been pulled into a job either, right?
Yeah.
What was it, Philly, or was it somewhere else that he got pulled into?
Well, Tortorella did coach Philly at one point.
Yeah, he got pulled into Philadelphia, and then even Tom would know too. Rick Bonus got pulled out of a TNT studio team to coach the Winnipeg Jets, and they kind of had a bit of resurgence here recently.
I mean, what's next? Are we going to pull Bissonnette out of the studio and have him coach a team?
Doubtful. He's got to worry about owning a ECHL club in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Well, he's also at Barstool, so he's not going anywhere. But I don't know. I don't get these like panicky moves that we see across the leagues. Like why this happens. We see these weird coaching hires, a la Phil Jackson in New York.
I was going to say before, Dino, I'll get to you in a second here, but Tom, to your point though about this being a panic move. Why though do I kind of feel like though in a way that this really isn't a coaching ordeal, Tom? It's how this Vegas roster is built with so many guys who are always on LTIR, a la Mark Stone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was just thinking about the Mark Stone when you said LTIR. It's like, yeah, they have a lot of injury-prone players, but I guess when you look at their roster, they have a lot of talent, and I think they take the risk of the long-term injuries of these guys because of the level of talent. But panic move or strategic move, my point stands. Because they have made this move, as ballsy as it is, or as stupid as it is, whichever direction you want to say this, if they don't make the playoffs, there are going to be a lot of questions coming the general manager's way. If this is a move where if you're going to bring somebody in like Torts, who's controversial, but also was very successful as a head coach and has championship experience and was just at a very, as you said, cushy job at ESPN, making the playoffs is a must.
Cannot agree more. Dino, your thoughts, though, about a team like the Vegas Golden Knights making a coaching move this late in the regular season as the calendar turns to April on Wednesday?
It certainly is unconventional, but it actually reminds me, if you guys remember, the Denver Nuggets did something very similar last year, where they fired their coach.
Michael Malone for David Adelman, yes.
Yes, they fired their coach right before playoff time, and they actually ended up doing pretty well. I mean, they took OKC to Game 7 in, was it the second round or I think
it was the second round.
I think it was the second round, yeah, the Western Conference semifinals. So, I mean, is it a high-risk move? I mean, yeah, it's very late in the season, and you're a team that's in playoff position. It's not like, you're struggling, and it's like, okay, well, we need a change right now to get into the playoffs. You're already in playoff position, and there's only a handful of games left. So it's a very risky move. But, if they feel like they need to maybe light a fire under the players and they feel like this is the move that'll do it, then I'm going to guess that's what they're thinking right now. And it may have worked. I would say it was pretty successful with Denver last year. I mean, the fact that they took the eventual champions to the limit in Game 7, I would say worked for them, so it may work for the Vegas Golden Knights in hockey as well.
One thing I do want to say, though, that's different about the Malone situation, the NBA is a players' league, and we've known that forever. So I will say there's a little bit of a difference there because their big guys came out, like Jokic and I'm forgetting the point guard's name off the top of my head at the moment. Jamal Murray. And they basically made it known that he was almost like a locker room cancer for whatever reason. I thought Michael Malone was a really good coach.
I thought he was too.
But stars control who coaches them in the NBA.
Yeah, the NBA is very player run, I feel like.
Like look at Giannis and the way that organization ran. He ran. Who was it that he ran out of? It was Darvin Ham when they hired him. I mean.
Oh, originally he blew out Mike Budenholzer first, then Darvin Ham, and then Doc Rivers.
Yeah, but Budenholzer was a coach of the year and he still blew him out. Like, it goes all the way back to Dwight Howard with Stan Van Gundy. If everyone remembers
True.
that whole situation. In the NBA, the players have more control. I don't know the NHL. Tom, you would know better than me. I don't know if players run coaches out of the league in the NHL or not.
Not as often as the
Not
NBA.
as much. Yeah, I mean the NBA.
You have to be a locker room cancer as a coach to get run out.
Sounds like Tortorella.
Pretty much.
Well, I mean, there were players who didn't like him back in the day.
But in the NBA, players can, if you're a star, you literally control a coach's future inside a locker room.
Nick, what are you talking about? LeBron James runs the whole league.
Well, he's the commissioner. He's the owner of the Lakers. He's the peanut vendor. He's the distribution for the food.
He's selling cotton candy in Section 232.
He's probably
he's the parking valet.
You know what?
He's probably driver for Kings games at crypto.com.
You know what? He's probably Adam Silver in disguise at this point. If I just put a mustache on, maybe I can get by.
All right, guys, we'll get back to more about the NBA's proposal to curb tanking here with our Back in the Napkin segment. Guys, again, the NBA, per reports, is trying their best to somehow curb tanking by proposing to extend the lottery to 18 teams. Under the new flattened odds ruling, the 15th-seeded team in the East would have the same chance at the number one pick as the team with the worst record in the league. Dino, if losing no longer guarantees you the best odds, does the NBA now run the risk of making the middle of the league even more boring, or does this finally bring integrity back to the regular season, in your opinion?
I mean, yeah, we discussed this earlier. I just think it's a horrible idea. Now, look, should they try to curb tanking? I mean, yes, but there's got to be a better way to do it. You can't give a playoff team the same odds at the number one pick as a team that has 18 wins. In terms of like tanking, it's a problem because you don't want to see uncompetitive games late in the season. So I agree, like they should try to maybe do something. Obviously, what you have over in European soccer leagues is you have relegation.
Oh, yes. The R word that shall not be said amongst American soccer circles.
That's something that prevents tanking over there. Now, I don't think that's really an option here because, we have the G League, but the G League teams are already connected to NBA teams.
Correct.
So I don't think that would really work. There's definitely got to be a better solution than potentially giving the number one pick to a playoff team.
Tom, I don't get where we're going here with the NBA. It's like you were saying, though, like, you want to love the NBA, but holy hell, man, they do more and more stupid things to, like, make you want to not be a fan, though. But, Tom, your thoughts, though, if losing no longer guarantees you the best odds, does the NBA risk making the middle of the league even more boring, or does this finally bring integrity back to the NBA regular season? Where's Peter Griffin to say, oh, my God, who the hell cares?
Oh, my God, who the hell cares?
If we keep in the book right now, we ask.
And thank you, Cam Ward.
But let me ask that, because I was just doing the math. So 60% of the league is going to have a shot at the number one seed, at the number one pick. 60%.
Yep.
What?
That includes non-playoff teams and playoff teams.
Well, right, the top 18 teams.
What?
You kidding me?
You kidding me?
If you're going to playoffs.
I thought they're winning the games.
But let me be clear on something. If you're going to do that kind of extreme numbers, you know what you should get settled first then, Mr. Silver? How about all these expansion talks that you're talking about? Where you want to put a team in Vegas and you want to bring back the Supersonics.
Even better, aspiration.
Oh, God.
They can make sense to me.
It is asinine that more than half of the league is going to get a shot at the number 1 overall pick. Like, honestly, boys, does that open up the idea? I'm going to counter your question, Callan, with another question. Does that open up the idea that this might backfire and you might see more teams tank?
Embrace the tank or trust the process.
Clown show, clown show, clown show, clown show.
Or trust the process like it was in Philadelphia for 4 straight seasons to get all
Trust
those
the process. My
They're
ass.
still trusting the process these days.
Yeah, that includes Joel Embiid and somehow Paul George.
Oh man, Nick Morgasen, floor's all yours, buddy.
Country Giants, country Giants, country let's go. Play this the whole night.
Okay, enough of that.
ETB country, let's ride.
Yeah, it's not a good system. Like I started to say before, you're adding more teams to the mix. So the percentages are going to be higher now for teams that are worse to actually receive a lottery pick. Look at the Dallas Mavericks. Where were they? They were 10th or 11th?
They had a 0.6 chance of winning the lottery.
That's not acceptable. Okay? A 0.6% chance, and you ended up with the number 1 overall pick? And you get Cooper Flagg? Well, now, he's been injured on and off. But when he's playing, he's an unbelievable player? You're telling me that there are teams way below Dallas that didn't need him?
And the thing is, that's going to make it harder for teams that are legitimately bad to get good.
Tom.
Well, the other issue you run into is like you said, like any team that's legitimately bad. Now, everyone's going to assume you're tanking when you're having a horrible season.
Tom.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, Nick, I'll come back to you in just a second. But Tom, the NHL, for example, I think back to a couple of times where I think both New York teams were involved in some kind of lottery tomfoolery. I think it was the year that the Rangers got Alexis Lafreniere. They beat out the Kings. I think that they had a very small chance of winning the lottery. The Kings had
yes, but at the same time, Callan, but at the same time that year, the Rangers were legitimately terrible.
And then this past season, the Islanders made a jump 10 spots to beat out the Sharks for the number 1 overall pick in the draft, too, for Schaefer.
But at the very least, the NHL keeps it in a way where if you are in the bottom 3, you really do have really good odds at, if you're not getting the top pick, then getting top 3, if not top 5.
And I think right now Vancouver's got the worst record, and they would have a 25.5% chance to win the lottery.
Followed by the Rangers.
Yeah, but there shouldn't be 10 teams that have the ability to get the number 1 overall pick.
But Nick, that's the point where I'm going to. I think where the NHL succeeds, where the NBA doesn't, is that with the NHL, it is only a select few teams that have heavy odds.
Agreed.
And if something doesn't fall in your favor, that's shitty luck. That's the lottery.
And more importantly, too, what Tom I think was going to get to, but I'll interject though, so we can keep the program moving here to get to the very end of this to sign off here, is the NHL also has a system in place. If say a playoff team, let's say the Ducks win the lottery somehow, they would redraw and redo the whole process over again because a team that is in a playoff spot gets the number pick. It's not feasible.
Meanwhile, with the NBA, now you are bringing playoff teams, legitimate playoff teams, into the lottery system. And it's like I said before, there is going to be a very fine line between you are legitimately a terrible team versus you are a tanking team, and it is going to be up. It is going to be up to, it's funny to say this just about sports in general, but the media watchdogs and the analysts to tell us who is, in our own eyes, as fans of the sport, to tell us what truly is a terrible team and what is a team. Pardon me. What is a team where the owner is just not spending money? Where is a team that the players are just load management central and are just tanking?
Wizards, teams,
but wait a minute, that's a whole nother issue. Which now they're going to start.
Yeah, no, Nick, I know it's another issue, but I'm saying with what the NBA is doing, that line is getting thinner and blurred.
Smaller.
No, right, but I think this is kind of reverse psychology a little bit what Adam Silver is doing by adding more teams to the mix, because he thinks that if we add more teams to the mix, that will stop people from losing. Believe it or not, that's making you want to lose more.
No, that's what I brought the question up to you guys.
Yeah.
That's why I fired it back. I'm like, isn't this just going to have an opposite effect?
Yeah, it's as I started to say, it's reverse psychology, because he thinks, oh, if I add more teams to the top, that'll force people less.
No, the only way you can do what you're legitimate.
You won't be incentivized to lose.
Yes. But
because,
no, my
like
point
right
was,
now, you're incentivized to lose because if the more losses you have, the better odds you have at the number one pick. But if everybody has equal odds, there's really not an incentive to lose. You might lose just because you're a bad team, but you're not going to have the incentive to lose.
But if you just remove the lottery in general, which I think is what they should do, and just give it to the worst record and go downward, then you wouldn't have that issue.
my point was, if you're going to do what you're doing, like what Adam Silver is trying to do, the fact that more than half the league is lottery eligible, like half is crazy enough, but fine, whatever. More than half, it's like at that point,
more than half makes the playoffs.
Right,
so.
but that's okay. But my point is, at that point, you're talking about expanding with adding Las Vegas and Seattle. At this point, just add one team in every division to get your 36 so you can legitimately go 50-50.
Well,
if we're doing all this crazy talk, I'll throw that out there.
Well, they're talking about removing the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference and just taking the top half into the playoffs.
Didn't LeBron James already moan and groan about that?
I actually am for it, because I think that most of the time there's one conference that's super loaded. It depends on whatever the trend is.
That would actually make it a lot more like a European soccer league, where
it would be like
just one division. It's just one
division based. Yeah.
It would also force you to actually make moves to stay in the top half of competing teams,
which in a way is what MLS is trying to do next season by ditching the conferences for 5 6-team divisions across the map next year.
Well, I'll give you a solution for tanking. How about like you take like the bottom. I think the NBA would love this because they will always want to add more games. You take like the bottom 8 teams and you make a playoff. And
for the first round pick, that'd be something.
You're watching the 8. I mean, it's a playoff of the 8 worst teams in the NBA. So I don't know how many people really want to watch that, but.
Or how about we just go back to the days of it's a coin toss. The 2 worst teams have a coin flip. Whoever it lands on gets the number 1 pick, and you call it a day.
Yeah, but that's no fun. Who wants a coin toss?
That's how they did it go back in the day. Why is that not a why can't we do that now? It's way simpler than having to worry about lottery balls.
How about just stop with all this nonsense and just go by the records? Because that's what the records are for.
Damn it.
Television revenue.
I mean, the record should mean
television revenue. Enough with the television revenue, because what Dino is saying would actually add more television revenue to the league, which don't give them any ideas. They might do it. But that's why I don't like the play-in tournament, because they desperately were trying to get Netflix or someone else to pick up that package, and they failed miserably.
Prime Video picked it up eventually, yes.
But that was already a partner of theirs. But they were trying to add another partner. That's why they tried to do it that way.
Yeah, the NBA should or the NHL and NBA should both go back to 1-8, 2-7, 3-6, 4-5 at each conference and call it a day. The NHL playoff format for me is too damn confusing. And Tom, as you know, there's a very high chance one of the Western Conference Cup favorites in the NHL is out in round 2 between the Avalanche and Stars. If that's the case.
Yep.
Not good.
Yeah.
With that though, guys,
I don't like the NHL playoff. Why do they do it that way? It should be
they did it to save on travel costs by going to a more divisional based format.
But we're in 2026. Like that shouldn't be an issue in 2026.
Well, they tweaked it as well though to add like a bit of like mystique with the wild card system, which really who cares? It's literally right now. I think the standings right now would be
It's the
that-
top 3 teams from each division.
Yeah, top 3
and
teams.
then the
division,
best
the
2
bottom
remaining
2
teams
are-
in the conference.
But
Yeah,
basically, like
regardless
you
of
said,
divisional
2 of the
affiliation.
best teams have to face each other in the first round, right? Like Dallas and Minnesota are probably going to play each other, even though they're in the top 3. So basically, 2 is facing 3 in the first round, which makes no sense.
If the playoffs began today, it'd be the Avalanche and Predators, Wild and Stars and Wild, Ducks, Mammoth, Oilers, and Vegas, who just canned Bruce Cassidy.
Oh, well.
Well, anyway.
But yeah, I mean, we could, I mean, everybody out there, I mean, we all could go a million different ways, and that's why the show is a thing, because you get 4 people on air, and you get 4 different opinions about what leagues should do and should not do when it comes to certain things. And that's why this program is where it is at 171 viewers at just past midnight on the East Coast and 10 o'clock on the left coast out here in Southern California. with that, guys, real quick at this rate, time for us to pour one out and call it a night here in a bit. But with that in mind, Nick, to pour one out, you've got Bruce Cassidy's tenure in Vegas, the Duke basketball double exit of the men's and women's basketball teams out of the running for a national title, and more importantly, Tiger Woods' private piece. Who do you pour one out for the night on this Monday night?
I mean, the most obvious is Tiger Woods. That's the one I'm going to take. I'm going to pour one out for Tiger Woods. Well, I don't know if he should be pouring one out at all. I think he should be going to rehab, not drinking or doing drugs. But I don't know. I kind of, this is going to sound bad when I say it, but I don't feel bad for him slightly, because
self-inflicted mistakes, you should learn from your mistakes, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
He's worth over $1 billion. I'm going to keep saying that. He's made his own brands. Do you remember he had that weird birthday party that was sponsored?
Yes,
also?
we talked about it too. When everyone, and it was called like "Wear a Shade of Red,"
and it was like sponsored by whatever. And it wasn't like a live stream thing or anything. It was, but he's got to get his shit together, get his life together. So maybe not exactly pour one out. Maybe he's just got to go to rehab and get clean, or maybe have like instead of a dry January, he should just have a dry year instead,
or maybe a dry rest of his life. How about that?
Or that too. I mean, because you know what? He's never going to have a money issue. Okay. He's going to have more money than he knows what to deal with. He'll have plenty of friends, at least, even if they're fake because of his celebrity. Now, I don't know about his family. That's a whole different issue. His son, I think, got a scholarship, full ride to a school. He's a really good golfer, from what I understood also. But he destroyed his life. He got divorced, probably lost a lot of money in that divorce, if I'm not mistaken either. Yeah, that's it for me. I would say pour one out or not pour one out for Tiger Woods at this rate.
Tom, one pour out drink for Tiger Woods. How about yourself? You got Bruce Cassidy's Vegas tenure, Duke's double exit, or Tiger Woods' private piece after Friday?
Just because of the nature of it, and because Nick Morgasen has basically said everything that there is to say, I'm not going to touch the Tiger one. I'm going to go with Duke. Here's one to you, Duke.
Holland Spring, baby.
Yes.
Because it is, man, like I said before, for all the hype that Duke had entering the NCAA tournament this year, you have all the stars on paper, and I get you. We're dealing with injuries, but you know what? What do we often talk about with sports? What do we often talk about with this past NFL season, the MLB grind in general? Sometimes it is just the team that manages to stay the healthiest that makes it further, makes it to the conference championship or league championship for MLB, makes it to the big game, championship game, even wins it all. But with all the talent that you had and the history that Duke has, Nick D and I and Ben were talking about the comparisons that Duke has to the Yankees in college basketball. For everything, the way that they played in this March Madness, just in general, was really disappointing.
Especially on Sunday.
And you could say, even especially because of the historical way they lost on Sunday. I get it. UConn is a very tough team, but the fact that you had a 15, even more than a 15, a 19-point lead
at one point, and you gagged it away.
Terrible, pitiful. So here's one out to you, Duke, and Duke fans. You probably were already drinking. You probably are still drinking. This one is going to be one you're going to want to forget.
This Duke's for you. Ha, ha, ha. With that in mind, Dino Taibi, who do you pour one out for tonight? Bruce Cassidy's tenure in Vegas, Duke basketball, or Tiger Woods?
Yeah, I'm gonna continue on the Duke one, so I'll pour it out for Duke as well. Let's not forget they actually lost in a pretty similar way last year in the Final Four. They never had a 15-point lead in that one. However, they were winning, I believe, most of the game against Houston.
And they gave it away.
And they gave it away really in the last minute. They gave it away just like they did in this game as well. They just started making mistakes and turning the ball over. And obviously none more highlighted than that last play where, 10 seconds left and you just make an errant pass that gets, to use a football term, it gets intercepted really. And credit to UConn for making I forget the guy on do you guys remember the guy on UConn who made the shot? I forget his name, but credit to him for making the shot. I mean, he hit it practically from the logo, I believe. So that was an incredible shot for him to make, but he never should have had that chance if Duke plays a little smarter basketball. Yeah, I believe that's it. So, yeah, I'm going to pour one out for Duke for essentially blowing a chance at a national championship in very similar fashion 2 years in a row now. Even though they've had very successful regular seasons 2 years in a row, it feels like maybe they're missing Coach K a little bit because I'm not so sure if that would have happened under Coach K.
I will pour one out then for Bruce Cassidy's time in Vegas, Stanley Cup champion in 2023. Really fulfilled Bill Foley's promise of, Cup final year 1, Cup champs in year 4 as they were. But obviously the nature of the business, though, even this late of the season, pour one out for Bruce Cassidy. And I'm sure he'll find a nice cushy job somewhere else in the NHL when more coaches are fired at year's end. With that, though, everybody, before we lock up for the night on this Monday, March 30th, we look at the clock and realize that some weekends don't just fill a stat sheet. They shake the foundation of the games that we love. Again, we had to start today with the news that's been sitting heavy on all of us since Friday. And watching Tiger Woods back in Florida, once again in a courtroom after a rollover crash, is a sobering reminder of how fragile both life and legacy can be. We've watched this man climb the mountain, fall and climb back up more times than we can count on one hand. But tonight, this conversation was not about the pursuit of Jack Nicklaus, but rather about a man's well-being and whether the greatest to ever swing a golf club can find a way to save himself one more time from one more spat in the public eye. But even though, guys, in the shadows, there were moments of blinding light this weekend. If you ever doubted the power of women's sports, look at Denver Summit FC with 63,000-plus fans in the stands for an expansion opener. Is not a mere record. It's a roar that can be heard from coast to coast. And back here in San Diego, the Wave just proved they are the big spenders in the room, bringing home Cap Macario home on a record-shattering deal through 2030 is a statement of intent. The Wave aren't just playing for trophies. They're playing for the future of the game of women's soccer. Meantime, Netflix will found out the hard way that live sports isn't the same as docuseries is. Between the buffering and the ill-timed dugout interviews, baseball's opening weekend felt more like a tech beta test than an actual pennant race on opening day. And in Vegas, the Golden Knights also reminded us that in the desert, nobody is safe, not even a coach with a winning record and a Stanley Cup on his resume when the playoffs are on the line at this rate. And the Elite Eight has given us a Final Four that nobody's bracket predicted. As we now enter April in a couple of days, the madness is only getting started. A huge thank you, as always, to Nick Morgasen, Tom Albano, and Dino Taibi for helping me navigate a weekend that felt like it took 10 years off my life, because it felt like it did today. The scoreboards are off, gentlemen. The stadiums are empty, but in here, the lights stay on. We are back next Monday to see if Netflix has finally figured out where the live button is and if the Wave have any more surprises up their sleeves and in the vault. How are those, gentlemen? And for our viewers out there, over 171 of you joined us here tonight. Sadly, until next week, the lounge is officially closed. We're back here again next Monday to get to more utter lunacy across the sports world. He's Nick Morgasen. He's Tom Albano. He's Dino Taibi. I'm Callan McClurg saying good night / early good morning on the East Coast and from the West Coast. We'll see you back here next Monday. Back here for more debauchery on the ETB Lounge right here on ETB. Till then, folks, have a great night. Bye-bye.
See you later.